Gary? Oh. Hi. 1, 2, 3. We need to start this meeting, so if I can get a roll call going. I'll give you a cue and when. Can you lower this a little bit? Okay, what did I do? We're just going to open it, roll call, and close for...
You need public comment on closed session.
Okay, public comment. Oh, look at you. You got it all laid up for me. Thank you.
Yes, I do.
I think I lost your pen. Oh, no, I didn't.
These are...
I got it.
You can use it, Don.
How are we doing, Gary?
Do you have a mic?
We're good, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Got wireless and he has wireless.
How do I, I'm always hot?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yeah, right now for this meeting, everybody's always hot.
Okay, normally I like it when people say that, but not this particular time. Let's call to order the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority Board of Directors agenda for our meeting for Thursday, December 17th. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Heyman. Chairman Gleason.
Here.
Director St. Amand. Director Page.
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for being here. We'll open up with public comment on any issues prior to closed session. Okay, it looks like we got a call. Caller, you're on the line.
Good morning. This is Derek Hoffman calling. I'm actually calling hoping to reach the IT specialist because the video is not streaming online.
Say that again, Derek.
The video is not streaming online. I thought this line would connect me to the IT gentleman, but I'm calling to let you know there's no way to view the meeting online. So if you could correct that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek. We got that to work. Our IT guy has heard your comments, and we'll try to make that adjustment. Go ahead with your comments, please.
That was my comment for now. I'll have other comments later today. Thank you.
We were a little late there.
Yeah.
It's not, the video's not live. There's no live video.
There's no live video, so we're going to work that, Derek. Thank you for the call. We got some time between now and we open up. Hopefully we'll get. I know there's new things going on here, IT stuff, because there's no switch. This is a hot mic, and so I think there's some changes going on with the tech IT stuff here at the city. So I'm sure we'll work it out before the meeting at 11. Thank you for the call, Derek.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please. Okay, I have no other calls, so we will close the public comment and retire to closed session. Okay. Give us a couple minutes. Right.
Please close.
Let's close it, yeah. Folks on the phone, we're going to be about a minute or two, and we'll be reporting out of closed session. So stay with us, please.
Okay.
Go for it. Go for it. Peggy, I have a certificate for you, a thank you certificate from the county. I didn't get it there last night. My apologies. I was jammed and I couldn't do it. And I had this what do they call that? The shot I had. What do they call it? Shingles. I had a shingle shot. My second shingle shot yesterday, and it sent me for a loop. I feel much better today. But everybody needs to get that.
Is it a meal certificate?
It's a couple donuts. Not just yet. We're waiting for David St. Amand. But we'll be in a minute.
Okay, we're ready when you are.
Okay, I'll just start. Okay.
Chairman Gleason, this is Jim Worth.
Hey, Jim.
Aware that you're still not streaming?
Say what?
There's still no streaming on the.
Okay, we'll work on that. Thank you. Hey, Ron, could you talk to Gary about that? As soon as St. Amand gets back in a minute, we'll start. What's he doing? Did he fall in or what? That's what my dad always used to say. Hey, get out of the bathroom when you fall in.
That's good. Nick, I think the video just came up.
Okay, thank you.
Do volume check?
Hurry up and take your time, Dave.
Take your time, here, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to go. Everybody ready to go? Time to reopen our Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, December 17th. We'll start it off with a report out of closed session.
Thank you, Chair. The board met on item 1, public employee appointment. The board will be entering into negotiations with Regional Governmental Services to be the general manager capacity. More to report on that when those contracts are negotiated. Board also met on litigation items for the Searles Valley Minerals lawsuit and the Mojave Pistachio lawsuit. Nothing to report on those, but advance warning now, the board will be meeting again tomorrow on those items in closed session starting at noon. And the board also met on initiation of litigation, which I will hand over to our co-counsel Keith Lemieux, who will report on that item.
Mr. Lemieux.
Yeah, the board met on undisclosed litigation, which I can now disclose as an action that was authorized against Mr. Frank Bolino for failure to comply with the agency's regulations. The authority hired the law firm of Oliveris, Madruga, Lemieux, and O'Neill in order to pursue a claim against Mr. Bolino and enforce the regulations. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Does that conclude our report out of closed session?
Yes, Chair, it does.
Thank you very much. Next up is a Pledge of Allegiance. It'll be read by Mr. St. Amand. Please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, and meditation.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please join me in pledging allegiance to the ensign of our nation. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Outstanding. Next up is a roll call.
Vice Chair Hayman,
Present.
Chairman Gleason,
Here.
Director St. Amand,
Here.
Director Page,
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Outstanding. Next is item 5, public comments. This time is reserved for the public to address the board on matters not on the agenda. No action will be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. I see we have a caller, so let it begin. Caller, you're up.
Hello, this is Renee Westerlusk, and I have 2 questions that I think Stetson Engineering should answer Steve Johnson if he's there. One is, I would like it clarified about the untapped water in the El Paso area of the basin. Is it considered part of the Indian Wells Valley Basin and not considered new water, and therefore subject to the same recharge data of 7,650 as for the rest of the IWV basin, by which the basin is required to reach sustainability?
And what's your next question, Renee?
My second one has to do with, I'm basically inquiring on behalf of the Heritage Village Master Community Association on completing their metering requirements. They wanted to know if the GA will accept their calibration of their water meter, which was done at the factory in 2019 when they originally purchased the water meter.
Okay, Renee, thank you.
Oh, and there's one more thing to that. They're also having problems. They're in the process of trying to purchase an hour meter.
Good.
And they did receive a list of 3 companies that was recommended where they could go to get the, once they purchase the hour meter, where they could go to one of these 3 companies that could calibrate the hour meter, but they're having difficulties in even contacting these companies. The first company, I guess, Golden Meter, they might have made a contact. The second company was McCall's, and they haven't gotten any response. And the third company was called Pump Check, and they are not taking any new clients. And they've been trying to contact these companies for about several weeks now and haven't been able to get through to find out about how, once they get the hour meter purchased, how they're going to get it calibrated. And that's what they need help with.
Thank you, Renee. We'll get some answers to you. Let's start off with Steve Johnson. Steve, you got an answer to the untapped El Paso region. Is that part of our aquifer or not?
Yeah, thank you, Mick. Yes, it is, Renee. The El Paso area is included in the basin model. It's included in the sustainable yield evaluation that was done through the TAC. So yes, it is included. It's a shallow area. It's not very deep, so it's a shallow area. There's not much pumping over there, and it's kind of like it's on the exit of the basin. So, in general question response is yes, it's included in all the work we're doing. And if you want more information, Renee, send me an email, and I can send you some information, more technical information on how it's included. On the second item, the heritage question, yeah, we appreciate the fact you're helping on that. That information, those questions on the metering and the hour meter and the requirements for testing and such, those have been submitted. Jeff Helsley's here with me. We are looking at those right now, and we will respond to those questions.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the answers. As a matter of correction, Renee, if you have emails, would you send them to our general manager, please? I'd like our general manager to, I don't want our water resource manager spending hours and hours and hours answering emails. But I'm sure he wants to, but because he's so, he's so involved in our community. He's a member of it, but we got to control costs. So if you forward those to our general manager, and our general manager will then filter them and get you the answers that you need.
So
thank you, Renee.
I need to send them to Don Zadiba until the new manager takes over?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
We should answer her variance question, too.
I think we did, didn't we?
Well, I just want to make sure that she reaches out now to Steve on the variance, because it sounds like some of the problems she's having won't occur with a variance.
So highlight that in your email to the general manager that you want to have a clear understanding of the variance involved and what you have to do in advance of things happening.
In this particular case, though, Chairman Gleason, Heritage wouldn't qualify for a variance under the Article 8 because they pump more than 10 acre-feet.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Next question.
No, that's a different variance. Part of the variance she's asking for is on metering accuracy, she's got a meter from 2019 that was brand new. I think Steve would accept that. At how much water are they pumping?
Okay. Renee, put it in the email, get it to Don, and we'll work on it. Next caller, please. Caller, you're up.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This
Hi,
is
Derek.
Derek Hoffman, Meadowbrook. Hello. I have some comments on an item not on the agenda today, but this is the appropriate time for them. So I'll read them into the record, and then I'll submit a written letter to follow. It has to do with the transient pool and the fouling program. And in the few recent months since the adoption by the board of that program in August, the program has become even further clouded with ambiguity and uncertainty that mandates deferring implementation of the program. So I'll list off some of those circumstances. There are now 2 pending lawsuits against the GA challenging the GSP and the replenishment fee that would fund the fouling program. The Indian Valley Water District, which would be among the pumpers funding the program, has objected to paying the fee, as you know. The Department of Water Resources has not yet reviewed or provided its evaluation of the plan. The State Water Board has provided comments identifying GSP flaws and data gaps that must be addressed, as you know, which is one of the items for today. And then additionally, recently in September, the Groundwater Authority sent letters to eligible program participants informing them that the fouling program was in jeopardy due to the water district's objection to paying the fee and stating that the GA was unable to provide definitive answers. The letter also references a requirement that participants waive claims against the GA and agree to the placement of some type of vague restriction on their property, which was never mentioned in the program. Then in October, at the GA meeting in October, staff presented a 2-page PowerPoint presentation that, as it says, recognizes the need to establish standards and guidelines for the authority to implement the program. And it did outline some proposed and very substantive modifications to the program, including providing for transferability, which is a potentially helpful revision, but also changes that would severely limit the total amount of water that the GA might purchase, and also imposing a vague 10-year limit on the program potentially. The board did not formally adopt any revisions to the program and instead directed staff to come back with more detail. A little further, in October, the GA adopted a recycled water program, as you know, that includes potential exemptions to the paying the fee that also could impact the transient pool program, but the GA hasn't provided information on what those impacts might be. A few further comments here on this item, please. In November, the Groundwater Authority agendized an item for transient pool valuation, but still did not provide any updated standards or guidelines for the program. The GA acknowledged that they've allowed the program to languish and become delayed, made vague references to some transaction in the Central Valley at a mere $200 an acre foot, which also contravenes the program language that says that valuation will be based upon the estimated net profit generated by the actual exercise of transient pool water for its intended agricultural purposes. So there's some real inconsistencies there. And then finally, the board had a meeting with apparently some, but not all, of the eligible transient pool pumpers, and indicated further ambiguity and issues there remain unresolved. So there's no item on the transient pool today on the agenda. The program is still severely lacking in substantive and procedural detail, and so with the replenishment fee kicking in potentially in 2 weeks, and under these circumstances, the GA should defer implementation of the transient pool and fouling program and the replenishment fee until several things can happen. The first is defer until the GA can ensure that it can fund its obligations for the program. Second, until the GA adopts a clear and sufficiently detailed program. And third, until the viability of the program is guaranteed by the GA, or the GA eliminates the waiver of claims requirement. So again, just in very short summary, the program itself is interesting. It's something that needs to be thought through further. and we would urge that the board defer implementation until these questions can be worked through. And we do look forward to working with GA staff and other interested parties toward a potentially positive outcome on this program. That's the end of my comments, and I appreciate you giving me a little extra time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate it. Some valid comments in there. I just want to take a minute to respond to some of the things you said. I appreciate Meadowbrook. They're the only of the larger pumpers. I think they may be the only party that's active, seems to be actively participating in what we're doing. I'm not interested in any way, shape, or form delaying implementation of the replenishment fee. I'm going to be hard pressed if that becomes agendized and we need to talk about it to vote in favor of any delays. We are significantly behind where we need to be. We have put offers on the table for months that lay idle, and we haven't heard any response from other people. So, and we are in critical timing for developing projects for import schedule and import other projects, and there's so much work we have to do and pay for that are coming down the road that any delays or any demonstration of a lack of resolve is utterly, totally unsatisfactory. I'm sure we can come to reasonable and accommodative solutions for Meadowbrook. We've put them on the table as best we can. We will continue working with them, but come January 1st, in my humble opinion and in my humble vote, will be that there will be no delay in the implementation of the replenishment fee. Next up. I see a caller up there. Caller, you're up.
Next up. Can you hear me? This is Joshua Nugent.
Josh, how are you?
Yeah, this is Joshua Nugent. I'm well. On behalf of Mojave Pistachios, and I would like to input some comments on Supervisor Gleason's legacy. So over the past 5 years, Supervisor Gleason has refused to consider the best interest of and the valuable input from all beneficial users of the water in the basin. His dictatorial approach has led to huge expenditures, the highest in the state for a GST, massive debt, a deficient and egregious GST, a half-baked and unsupported basis for allocating water, a disregard for property rights, ongoing, expensive, and unnecessary litigation, the highest pumping fees in the state by far, a lack of understanding of the availability of water elsewhere in California, namely that there is not much, and no real plan to get this water that's currently unavailable to the IWV. However, we are pleased to point out that in a recent Bloomberg News article, Supervisor Gleason did not dispute that there are, quote, 67 million acre-feet or 21.8 trillion gallons, of which 2.9 trillion gallons are in shallow, easily reached areas. That is, there's enough readily available water to satisfy the current water demand in the IWV for 300 years, and enough additional deeper and brackish water to satisfy the current demand for an additional hundreds of years. The state constitution, Article 10, Section 2, requires that the water resources of the state put to be reasonable and beneficial use, and SGMA allows for 20 years for the basin to achieve sustainability. Given the available water, the state constitution, and SGMA mandates, why is the IWVGA rushing? And how can such exorbitant and unsupported pumping fees be imposed? Why not allow for a soft start with minimal reductions, followed by a gradual, proportional ramp down to sustainable yield? This, coupled with a more reasonable pumping fees, provides sustainable groundwater management that considers all beneficial users, property rights, and the socioeconomic impacts of reduction. This is not just a reasonable approach, but the correct one. If the supervisor had listened to the input of all beneficial uses, this is the road that we would be on, resulting in much lower expenditures, no debt, a GST acceptable to all, a fair and equitable allocation of water, and honoring of property rights, no litigation, reasonable pumping fees, and most importantly, security of the water supply for the Navy and the community. Perhaps now that Supervisor Gleason is moving on to other pastures, we can get back on the right road. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Josh. A quick response. I didn't dispute the fact that I have a big nose either in that Bloomberg article. A lot of things I didn't dispute. I would say this, that just recently our water district president received a letter, at least we understand he received a letter that we have a shallow well that's going dry. Our crisis is upon us. We have a water table that is in chronic decline, has been for 50 years. We have a modeling system that shows that our main pumps, our big pumps, are going to be unable to produce sufficient water for us to live, to meet the community needs in about 40 years, meaning that not only are they going to have to be redug, but all the other shorter wells are going to be adversely impacted. I would say dispute your claims, Josh, and say that we are at crisis and we need action and we need it immediately. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes, you can hear me.
Yes, can hear you, Mike.
Yes, okay. Mike Neal here. I'll just say 3 cheers to what Mr. Nugent had to say. I agree with him completely. In addition, I'd also like to talk to the recent buy-in of the GA to the recycled water agreement with the city of Ridgecrest, and they didn't bother to put it out, but of course it came out at the water district meeting as far as this commitment letter to getting in on the recycled water program. In brief, I basically told the water district that anybody who would sign on to a commitment letter like that would be an absolute fool. The terms of that commitment letter proposed by the GA to, I'm sure, both the water district and the Searles Valley, and I hope Searles Valley is listening to this, are just ridiculous. It entails unfair distribution of the credit cost towards the replenishment fee on these, basically saying, well, if there's 2 guys signing on, which is probably only going to be 2, and one gets less water, he still gets the equal share of the replenishment fee reduction. Well, that's just ridiculous, and I don't know who came up with that. But anyway, there is a stance. And then the other part, which is basically just totally offensive, and I think if you wanted to listen to the Water District board members' comments, you would find out that you raise their ire to a real high level with this, telling them that if they want to get in on this, they have to agree to never sue the GA for any reason at any time from now to eternity. Well, like I said before, that's completely ridiculous, and so now you've not only pissed off all kinds of people, individuals in this valley, by ignoring our broad sweeping stance against the replenishment fee. You're also now pissing off 2 major water entities in this valley, and so I hope that maybe we can jump up your number of lawsuits from the apparent soon to be 6 to 8 or 9 or 10. And by the way, there's also the power of the initiative, and that is yet to be explored or delved into, but it's almost certain to be availed of. And through those means, maybe we can finally kick you guys out into the front lawn out there and get ourselves an elected GA board who really will serve the needs of the people and actually listen to them.
Thank you, Mike. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes, this is Judy Decker.
Hi, Judy.
I would like to point out an error in the staff report from last month on item number 11. The Indian Wells Valley Water District is referred to as a municipal water district. It is not a municipal water district. It is a county water district. It was formed in the 50s. It covers all of the city of Ridgecrest, that portion of San Bernardino County that lies within the Indian Wells Valley, and it also serves water to residents and businesses west and south of the city limits in the county of Kern. I would like you to correct that, and I would like to remind you that as a county water district, the water district has the legal ability to serve not only potable water, but to have a wastewater facility and to use recycled water. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Could we take action April on correcting last month's agenda, item 11, number 11? We're going to take your comments under consideration, Judy. We'll get an answer to you. Thank you very much. We'll talk about it.
There's a big difference between a municipal
Thank you.
water district and a county, and I know Jim Morris can tell you exactly what the differences are.
Thank you. We're going to take it for action. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Chairman Gleason, Burnell Blanchard, Searles Valley Minerals.
Hi, Burnell.
Hello. Notwithstanding your previously expressed opinions in this public meeting, as stated in Searles' December 14 letter submitted to the authority, Searles is requesting postponement of the replenishment fee until the GSP is approved. And in light of the recent comments on the GSP made by the California Water Resources Control Board, we believe a fee postponement is reasonable until all planned deficiencies identified by the Control Board are addressed in full and the GSP is approved. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Burnell. If we can address, I mean, we can put that on the agenda for January, have a decision on it. That's, I won't be on the board at that time, but I don't know if that can happen or not.
Well, one thing I want to make sure everybody understands, that letter doesn't show deficiencies. GSP is a continuing, ongoing document that will be looked at over the next 20 years, and it only speaks of data that it would like to see supplemented in the future. That letter from the State Water Resources Control Board is about as supportive as any letter you're going to get.
Well, that's unfortunate because it identified what they call programmatic gaps, okay?
Thanks, sir. Burnell, as I stated earlier, we'll see what we can do to get on the board. I'm not going to be on the board next month, but I want to answer your question. This board has gone out of its way to work or try to work with Searles Valley to accommodate them to the best possible place we can. We have made significant offers to Searles Valley. We have heard nothing in response, nothing. And so I think the fact that we are in the place we're at right now, delay is totally unacceptable. And I don't see how Searles could even hope to get a better deal than what we're offering them. So I'm hopeful that Searles can focus on solutions, bring something to the table so that we can consider, because we are all ears. We want Searles to succeed. We are committed to Searles' success. But we can't succeed with Searles unless Searles participates in the process. So I'm looking forward to hearing something from Searles, and in my opinion, the replenishment fee starts January 1st.
Okay, well, I do appreciate your comments, and I personally will miss you in January.
I'm going to miss you too, Burnell. I really am. I really love all you people in Toronto. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please. Caller, you're up.
Hi, this is Anita Ensign, Meadowbrook Dairy. I have a question. For the last, I think it's about 3 years, we've been asking, and there's several of us that have been asking this question. Elaine Mead has been asking it, and our lawyer, Derek Hoffman, has been asking it. We keep hearing that wells are going dry. 3 years ago, and we asked to get a list of the locations or the names of these wells that are going dry. And as we talk around the community over all these years, we've never heard of anybody's wells going dry. So now that you have one well going, could you give us the location of that well so we could kind of get an idea of where you're talking? But we keep hearing this, and there's no person out there that's saying that this is affecting. And as you know, North Brown Road, where our farm is at, and Mojave Pistachio is out there as well, our water is stable. I mean, we have no, we've got the data, we've got transducers down, so, we'd like to know. So please let us know. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Anita. Appreciate it. As a side comment, I want to thank you personally. It's probably my last time doing that. Thank you and Derek and Meadowbrooks for participating in the process and trying to be a member who's trying to solve the problem. in answer to your question, is it possible for the water district to relay that information about, the email that was received regarding a well going dry? Is that something we can give that information out to Meadowbrook?
Yeah, there was no name. It was just Director Griffin from the Water Board received an email, or somebody contacted him, I should say, by phone regarding their well going dry. He submitted a question just asking what is the process for making a claim against the Groundwater Authority. That's all I know. I don't know any details about when the well went dry or anything else.
Thank you. Another thing that Anita is referring to is the fact that according to our GSP and the modeling program, we've projected that 2012 that modeling program is submitted to our GSP, has projected based on the data they've collected that 22 wells are going to go dry in the next 5 years, and then that rate is going to increase. So what we're trying to do is forestall that event from occurring by implementing the actions that we've been implementing. I don't know about wells in the past that have gone dry. I just don't know that. I don't have that information. I have not said that. All I know is that you said it. So do you have something to say to answer, Anita?
I do. The PAC and TAC and its combined meeting, I'm pretty sure was the combined meeting based on the way they were arranged. PAC member Kazakhstan and others had support for when those wells were when they were asked which ones had gone dry, and they had somewhat of a discussion about it but didn't get into too detail. So this has been up, and that information has been volunteered before.
Thank you. Steve Johnson, I just thought, you're not here, so it's not easily. Could you please get us an answer on that, and we can get that information to Anita? I'd like a collection of the wells that have gone dry that she's talking about, and I want her to get that information. So if you could take that, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. Got it, Nick.
Thank you, Steve.
Nick. I'll work with the general manager on that.
Thank you, sir. Next caller. No more? No more, that's it? That was easy. Yes, sir.
If I might be allowed to, I'd like to introduce myself to the...
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Go for it.
I'm David St. Amand. I'm a director with the Indian Wells Valley Water District. I'm the alternate to former director Ron Kaczynski, and I'm here today in his stead. I'm also employed by the Department of the Navy, but everything that I say today or any opinions I make or votes I make are based on my role as a member of the Water District or as an individual person. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Welcome aboard, and our best to Ron. Ron served spectacularly for a number of years, and thank you for being here. Okay, let's move on from public comments to consent agenda. Don.
Chairman Gleason, I would request that we pull item B2 from the consent agenda. I received the invoice with very little time to review it. I'd like to have time to go through it and bring it back to the board.
Thank you, sir. Let's open it to the public for comments on item number 6, the consent agenda. Anybody in the public wishing to make comment on item 6? Oh, we got a caller, I think. Caller, you're up.
Yes, this is Joshua Nugent on behalf of Mojave Pistachios. I was just calling again this month to ask you guys to pull the consent expenses and have them be dealt with on an individual basis. Yes, this is Joshua Nugent. As in prior months, the receipts attached to the December agenda demonstrate a startling lack of oversight and contain numerous questionable expenses, including reimbursements for personal care products such as Neosporin, peroxide, hand sanitizer, home cleaning supplies such as Bounty, Scotch-Brite, Dawn, trash bags, Lysol wipes, and no less than 9 iced coffee drinks. So even though these are generally small expenditures, it just goes to show that there's a startling lack of oversight and that there needs to be a finance committee established in order to have fiscal oversight and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. I know that Mr. Johnson has a comment to make about this particular item.
Sure, Vic. Thank you. And as the general manager, Don just reported, that item has been pulled from the agenda. I just became aware, and I apologize because I don't look at the individual invoices when they go out. I was not aware aware of this. These are folks that are out in the field doing field work, and they submitted their expenses to Stetson, which I have no problem paying their expenses for certain things. The method by which they got onto the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority invoice, I take responsibility for that. They should not be there. That's why we pulled the invoice. We're going to work with Don to scrub that invoice and make sure it's clean, and make sure going forward, I've told my folks even just today again, that we need to make sure there are no red flags. So, I appreciate your comment, guys. I appreciate you checking in. It never should have been on the invoice, and we will take care of that.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Don, you done? Thank you. I know Mr. Kaczynski at previous meetings commented that he wanted a breakdown of charges and what account lines they're coming from, and he wanted a graph. And no one objected. I think it's a great idea, but I don't see that. I don't see that as having happened. So could we make sure when we break this down, we're assigning costs with pools of money that they come from?
It is on the consent agenda in parentheses after each item.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. I see that.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't recall the graph specifically.
Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. It's right there. You're absolutely right. But I was expecting a table.
Okay.
That's why I didn't notice it. But that's
Chair.
fine. That's fine as long as it's identified. I'm fine. I'm happy. Okay. So if there's no public comment, I would like to close the public hearing and bring it back for a vote on the consent agenda or board comments after we pull Bravo 2.
Yeah, Mick, I have some comments.
Please.
It's John Vallejo.
John.
Obviously we just received a lot of this board packet, or the entire board packet yesterday. This is one of the items that I didn't spend a lot of time looking at it because of the other issues that had higher priority in my mind. So I'm going to abstain just because I haven't had enough time to really review what's going on in these proposed expenditure approvals.
Thank you, John. Any other board comments or a motion?
I'd like to say I appreciate Don for recognizing that and pulling it, and I appreciate Steve Johnson for immediately correcting it. And if we don't have any other comments, I'd like to motion to approve the agenda.
A question about the
Yes, sir.
The minutes of the board meeting. Did the minutes from last month actually report the water district as a municipal district? Did I misunderstand the previous call?
No, the previous call was about the mutual in
on agenda item 11, she said that the water district was listed as a municipal water district. Is that a listing in the minutes from last month as a municipal?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We're looking for a second.
I'll second that. I'll second.
You got to get the eye. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Hayman.
Aye.
Chairman Gleason.
So if I say aye on this, I'm understanding that I'm voting on everything but B2, and B2 has been brought back to us.
Director St. Amand.
Aye.
Director Pate.
Aye.
And Director Vallejo abstained.
Okay, item number 7, John Zadiba.
Sure. I know this came out relatively late. We were waiting for some last-minute information, but the format you see is consistent with what was presented last year in terms of a pro forma. It's actually separated into 4 different accounts, if you will. There's one for GSP development, one for administration, one for well mitigation, and one for the replenishment fee. So you have 4 different sheets. I've asked Ty, our CFO from the Water District, and he's been doing these finances for the GA for the last 2 years. So just go through and kind of highlight how this was put together for the benefit of the board, and then we'll take questions.
Okay. So as Don said, we broke this down into pretty much the 4 different categories or 4 different pots of money that we are responsible for. The first being GSP, you went over the different 4 different ones, didn't you? Yeah, okay. Starting with the GSP development, it currently has a per acre foot charge of 105. We took last year's pumping information for the valley, populated that in there to give us our assessment pumping fee. So this is just the extraction fee, if you will. The other revenue in here is the GSP preparation, Prop 1 grant, and the SDAC reimbursement from Prop 1 as well as Prop 68. So in discussing with Stetson, we got the timing and estimates for those invoices and the revenue coming in. Let's see, as far as expenditures, we went through, these will not be administrative expenditures because this is just for the GSP development. We have the City of Ridgecrest reimbursement. I understand this is not the correct amount, though. I think it's supposed to be higher.
So, yes, that's not the correct amount. So I had a question about that. You have it at 210 now, but I think back in May it was at 287. I think currently it's over 300.
Okay.
370, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. I don't have the exact current amount.
270. I thought it was 278 or 287.
It was 287 back in May. And so.
So I'm not sure what it is currently then. 287, is that what we're saying?
Right. And while we're on that one, I have a question: is where it's placed on the budget here? Is that being paid out in December? Or payment until December? Or
that would be up to the authority to determine when they want to pay that, when they have the money to pay that. I included in the same time period the reimbursement to the County of Kern. If you look down at the bottom, it kind of shows what our ending balances are. Starting in January, taking into account expenditures that haven't been paid yet, we're starting with a negative 113,000. We actually go positive in April at 101,000. So theoretically, starting around that time is when we could start making those payments back. But I did lump it into December just for ease of presentation, and because the authority hadn't decided if they're paying it back in a lump sum or over time. So that's at your guys' discretion.
My understanding is we're going to pay the city right after we pay the county.
Okay.
Only teasing.
Thank you.
I guess what can I say on the expenditures? We have the SDAC program ongoing. We got Stetson GSP administrative.
I was going to say, could you back up to
Sure.
the Indian Wells Valley Water District advance?
Yes.
Get that one.
Because it's no longer being paid with the GSP extraction pumping fee revenue, it has been moved over into the replenishment fee as a credit towards the revenue. So that's why it's not on this table anymore. It's been moved.
And is that being done on a month-by-month basis?
That is
starting in January?
It's starting I think the first payment's made in February, and that's when it'll start because it's a credit towards future charges to the water district.
Of the replenishment fee?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions on GSP development budget? As you can see at the end, in December, it ends at 621,000. We stopped the collection of the extraction fee after August. $1.5 million that we needed to complete the GSP. What is not included in here is any additional legal services as far as defending the GSP or the lawsuits, and that would be coming from that 621,000.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's open to the public for comment. Stand by, we may need some support. I don't see any callers, so let's bring it to the board for comment and consideration. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just the GSP development part.
Okay, we're not going to vote on each one? No,
That's at your discretion.
Let's do all of them together.
Okay. The next funding pot, if you will, is for the administration. You can see there's no fee revenue listed here because we do not currently have any sort of revenue for the administration costs. What you will see is a Rose Valley reimbursement by the Navy for one of the projects that you'll see later on down the list. In the expenditures, we included as if we were hiring an individual. My understanding now is that we're going with the consultant, so all of that budget there would go towards the consultant instead of individual employees. We have the general engineering. This is numbers and expenditures that came from Stetson Engineering towards what will be required for the administrative part of the general engineering budget. Some of the bigger ticket, after I sent this out, so this morning I got a call from from Joseph down at Stetson, and there's a couple of changes they wanted to make on here. The one being, annual report. We have a 2021 total of 30,000. They said that should be 50,000. The data management system we have at 100,000. That should actually be reduced down to 30,000. Stetson DRI storage calculation and report review should be increased to 55,000. And then they wanted to add an additional line for data collection, monitoring, and data gaps of 100,000. So overall, it's a plus 62,000 to this expenditure budget. The most concerning thing, of course, and you're all aware of this, is we have no revenue coming in. So. Okay. That's all I have on the admin, unless you have
Well, I guess
questions.
we're just going to keep going through it, and we'll go through all four.
Okay.
And open it.
Mick, can I ask a question about?
Yes, sir. Bob Page.
Yeah. So you mentioned this reimbursement from the Navy in December. What is this project?
That one's probably better asked to Steve.
Okay.
Steve Johnson.
Steve's on the line.
Can you explain the Rose Valley reimbursement by the Navy?
This is Steve and Jeff. Jeff's on too. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, this is Jeff Helsley with Stetson. We've come to the board for the last couple of years to discuss the Navy COSO royalties funding that's been made available, and the board has supported submitting projects. This is the first award of funds, this project is, of those Navy Coast funds, and it's drilling a well out in the Rose Valley area so we can get better measurements about how much water is flowing from Rose Valley into the Indian Valley Basin. So it's shown as an expense because we have to pay the cost of pumping, of drilling the well, but we will be reimbursed. The Groundwater Authority will be reimbursed from the Navy COSO funds, all of that.
And Jeff, what's the total reimbursement from the Navy for those costs?
$340,000.
I thought it was significantly more than that. We're talking about the royalties from the Navy?
Yeah, that's correct. I believe I know this project is $340,000.
Okay. I know significantly more was approved.
Hey, Mick, this is Commander Benson. If I could
Yes,
speak
sir.
for a second on that. So, right. So this is the ESB project that was approved, and it was submitted with this estimate for $340,000. That's not the entirety of the COSO royalty funds that come each year. That was the approved project. So as a project goes forward, it can't exceed the 340,000, but the reimbursement or transfer of funds, we're still working through that exact process of it being the first time, would be to pay for the costs of installing the wells themselves.
Got it. Thank you, Commander. Appreciate it. And this is getting a part and parcel to our ability to wanting to challenge our recharge numbers, so that we're validating a GSP that is going to be adaptive and flexible. Keep going, please.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, Mick, if I could ask, he mentioned that the numbers on page 2 had changed. So what's the final ending balance number then, based on those changes that you said were made in the Stetson expenses?
So with the changes, it would be an additional $62,000 in expenditures. So that puts the negative ending balance at 1.8 million.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next table is for the replenishment fee. Starting off, we took the amount of additional water that would be needed by the Searles Valley Minerals and Indian Wells Valley Water District, calculated against a 2,112.5 per acre foot charge, and populated that out. You can see the IWVWD credit, so that's where the advance went to give you your assessment pumping fee revenue of $8.35 million for the year. The expenditures, because to begin with, aren't going to be huge, but it's starting with legal services, administration, negotiations, engineering and analysis, optimized use of recycled water, for a total of $375,000 in the first year. And then the last table.
Mick, can I ask a question, Mick?
Yes, please do, Bob.
So we've talked about the replenishment fee as being correlative, that, the fee will help us determine exactly how much imported water rights we need to buy based on how much water is pumped that pays towards the fee. So what amount did staff include being pumped each month to determine how much revenue we would get each month from the replenishment fee?
So we took the amounts, because this only would apply to Searles Valley Minerals and IWVWD. We took the amounts that were in the pumping fee. Yeah.
So for Searles Valley Minerals, we had the information that they reported through the monthly reporting form on their monthly pumping through October. So we used actual numbers from January through October of 2020, and then we used November and December of 2019, assuming it would be about the same. Water District numbers are based on, again, our actual production that we reported, but does include November. So when you look at the number for IWVWD, 1842.9, we took the allocation table, assumed that the Water District would have to import 2,113 or 17, something like that, per year. But when you look at our actual production, when we remove the Federal Reserve right of 4390, that's the amount that we would have to import based on our actual production.
Okay, so based on the discussion we had last month, that regarding the recycled water program, assuming that proceeded as was described, there's a potential that if all this revenue and this performance coming from the Water District and Searles Valley Minerals, that we really could have zero revenue next year if that recycled water project goes forward, correct? Or maybe not zero, but like a reduced amount. I'm trying to remember exactly what the benefit was in the short term in terms of, as I recall, it wouldn't be paying anything on this page. It would be just paying the amount of the replenishment fee on the next performer, correct?
No, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Council, if the water was split, Searles would get 1,000 acre feet and the water district would get 1,000 acre feet. So the 1,000 would come off of each of those numbers you see in the upper left-hand corner, and there would still be a fee paid based on those numbers, the revised numbers.
Okay. Okay.
Chairman Page, to think of it another way, you're going to go from 5,000 need of an import to 3,000 need of an import.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Continue.
The last table is the well mitigation. This is the $17.50 per acre foot charge. Once again, only coming from Searles Valley Minerals in the Water District. Same calculations. We've put in the IWD credit. It comes out to the revenue is $70,000 in the first year. The developed expenditures come out to $325,000 in the first year. So there's not enough revenue to cover those expenditures. So we may have to scale back the work done in the first year. As you can see, the ending balance is negative $255,000.
Okay. Is that it?
That's all the tables, yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
All right. Let's open up to the public. Caller, you're up.
Yes, this is Renee Westolusk. I would like the attorney Phil Hall to explain the basis why the city of Ridgecrest deserves the reimbursement of $210,466, because this keeps coming up at all the water board meetings. There are certain members of the water board and members of the public that keep saying this is wrong and illegal and all that stuff. If Mr. Hall could please explain the justification for the reimbursement to the city for legal fees.
Go ahead.
So, Renee, I mean, this is mostly a policy choice. I can tell you what the policy choice has been made, I think, 3 or 4 times now, and what the basis has always been for that choice. If you first have to consider what an agency is. The Water District isn't a group of 5 board members and employees. It's a group of constituents. If you're a Water District constituent and you live in the county, you pay for this GSA twice, through your water bill and through your county property taxes. If you're a constituent of the Water District and live in the city, without this reimbursement, you will pay 3 times, to the county, to the Water District, and to the city. So what the reimbursement is doing is it's making sure that those constituents of the Water District that are inside the city are on par with constituents of the Water District that are outside of the city, and those that aren't constituents of the Water District but are in the county, because those pay a fee for their water directly to the GA and then their property taxes. So what this does is it puts somebody on par with everybody else. If they live in the city and are a constituent of the Water District, they're not paying 3 times while everybody else is paying twice.
Thank you, Renee. Next question, please.
If you could please.
Go ahead, Renee. I'm sorry. Did I cut her off? I didn't mean to cut her off. Renee, if I cut you off, I'm sorry. Could you please call back? I'm sure we're going to have more calls here. Oh, you still up? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Renee. I'm sorry. I cut her off. I didn't mean to cut her off. Renee, if I cut you off, I'm sorry.
There's a delay.
Call back. I'm sure we're going to have more calls. No, still up. Go ahead. Go ahead, Renee. I'm sorry.
Okay, caller, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me? This is Joshua Nugent.
Josh, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Joshua on behalf of Mojave Pistachios. So there are several items in the 2021 budget that should be clarified. First, the budget titled Administration includes a quote-unquote fee line under the revenues column without any projected fee revenue. How will the nearly $2 million in projected administration expenses be funded? Does the agency propose another new fee? And if not, how will the projected $1.7 million budget shortfall be covered? Additionally, further clarification on some of the expense line items is needed. For example, what will be funded with the $120,000 allocated to meetings and prep, or the $340,000 allocated to the Navy COSO Royalty Fund Coordination, which we did just get some information on, so I appreciate that. Likewise, the shortfall in the well mitigation budget is concerning. How will the projected $250,000 budget shortfall in that budget be covered? Also, the assumptions underlying the well mitigation and replenishment budget should also be clarified, including further basis for the revenue projections, given that the replenishment fee has not gone into effect. Additionally, for the budget titled GSP Development, it should be clarified whether the assessment pumping fee in the revenues column references the fees collected under the extraction fee, the replenishment fee, or both. Additionally, this budget appears to potentially underestimate 2021 expenses. For example, consultant expenses in the item labeled Stetson are estimated at a total of $60,000 for 2021, whereas Stetson's recent invoices have averaged approximately $100,000 per month. Finally, we reiterate our prior request that the GA begin adhering to best accountancy practices and immediately form a finance committee to increase financial oversight and transparency. Thank you for your time.
Josh, thank you for your time. You asked a bunch of questions, and I got about half of them. If I'm lucky, I got half of them. I got your last one. Does anyone want to start tackling some of his questions? I can tell you this, that the administrative cost fees, our basis for paying those administrative cost fees is the way we're doing it now. The GSP clearly calls for a replenishment fee, which will offset the costs of imported water, administrative costs, and all associated other associated projects. So we have costs and revenues lined up for the administrative costs. You talked about $250,000 for well mitigation. The well mitigation, I don't know where you got that number, but we got a $17.50 allocation coming out of our replenishment fee that's going to offset the costs of well mitigation. You had a couple other questions about consulting fee, $60,000. I don't know which report you're talking about. You got that on, I'm sure it's there. Off the top of my head, don't know where exactly it is. Johnson, could you address Josh's comments about consulting costs? I'm not sure where he got the number. I think he got it, but I just don't know where.
Yeah, Chairman, this is Jeff Elsey. I'm looking for where that number is because we show certainly, under the admin, other expenses that are ours. That's of $60,000.
Okay, well let's just do this. Let's do this. We got this on record. He asked a bunch of questions. I think he deserves answers to those questions, but he rattled them off pretty quick. And in the best interest of time, if we could capture those questions and respond to Josh, I'd appreciate that.
Chairman, I do have one answer to one of his questions.
Then give me one answer to one of his questions.
One of his questions was related to the administration budget on here, and is there going to be an administrative fee? There doesn't have to be one. There might be one, but there doesn't have to be one. Just as the Water District doesn't have an admin fee, it has budgeting tasks, and those tasks are covered by certain items. For example, if you're a water district and you have a capacity fee, you can only use your capacity fee for certain items, but when your general manager is working on those items, the capacity fee can pay for that general manager's time. That is task budgeting. It's what's required by California law. So whether or not we have a budget here, we have to task account, and that is what will be done.
Thank you. And your comments regarding a finance committee have been considered and will continue to be considered. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Hi, this is Anita Emsan calling back from Meadowbrook Dairy. I want to pick up where Renee left off about the reimbursement to the city. I talked about this probably 3 years ago when this first number came up that the city was wanting reimbursement. The three big, the water district, the city, and the county, all decided to do in-kind services for their legal fees. And that's where these agencies are generating their bills, are from their legal fees. As you know, I take Derek, my lawyer, with me. Mojave has their lawyer. We all have our lawyers, and we should all be responsible for our own fees because I'm not asking for reimbursement. You guys have all chosen to have a lawyer represents you. So the city should have to pay their own legal fees. That was their choice. As I said 3 years ago, that was their choice. As Derek has said in many letters, that was their choice. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good points, Anita. Thank you very much. Next call, please. Caller, you're up.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Derek Hoffman, attorney for Meadowbrook. And I just received this packet yesterday with the updated budget information, so we're still digesting some of this. But some preliminary questions and following up on Meadowbrook. I just received this packet following up on some of the questions that were posed today. On the administration budget, several have asked what will be the revenue stream. And I think I heard Mr. Hall just respond that there might be an administrative fee, there might not be. I assume he's referring to a Water Code 10730 fee in that comment, the same type of fee that is now on the agenda today for $105 an acre foot. So my question is, number one, is that the type of fee he's referring to when he says we may or may not have another one of those fees? My second question is, what is the current plan that's assumed here for that revenue, for that fee? What is the current plan? Will it be a Water Code 10730 fee? Is that the plan at this point? And then I have a couple other additional questions here, again, on the administration budget. And I'm looking at the second page of the administration budget. About halfway down, there are line items there that say allocation plan for sustainable yield. And there are subcategories that refer to allocation process and pool support, rules and regulations on pumping restrictions, and fallowing and pool transfer programs. And I see that there are expenses budgeted all the way out through December of 2021. So kind of following on my earlier comments about the lack of detail, the lack of information currently in those programs, my question is, what are these budgeted expenses for into 2021? Are they going to include costs to further detail those programs and those rules and regulations? And again, I just would point out that those details need to be developed and established before you enforce or expect participants to make decisions on those programs. So again, I appreciate any answers you can give today on those questions on this administration budget.
We're going to have some answers for you here real quick, Derek, and we're going to have a continuing stream of answers as we get a new general manager and this budget becomes, yeah. So go ahead. Could you answer some questions about the 10 to 720, 730, whatever that question was?
Sure. The answer, Derek, is I'm sure if you jog your memory as to where we've been on an admin budget over the last 6 months, we don't know. I know Ron Kaczynski, former director Ron Kaczynski, was adamant for an admin budget and an admin fee. But, while you have an admin budget, all of those tasks can be split across. If you're doing it, in other words, put it this way, there's no administration of this agency that's not already being done for something, whether it be the development of the GSP or the replenishment fee. So those are tasks that are occurring. So with that being the case, you don't necessarily have to have a specific admin fee or to cover those budgeted items. They're covered by the tasks that they're representing. What fee structure would be adopted in the future, if any? Nobody has any idea right now because no proposal has been made.
Thank you. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes, this is Renee Westella, just calling back. I just wanted a clarification on the record because I guess I'm tired of going to water board meetings and other meetings and hearing this thing about the city doesn't deserve the $210,000 back for legal costs. Because I'm a city resident. I live within Ridgecrest City. limits, and I don't want to pay more than the people that live in the county for legal costs for the GA. So that's why I wanted Mr. Hall to clarify publicly, and I would also like Director St. Amand to bring this information back to the Water Board and make it a moot point, because they waste time with public comment and disgruntled other board members complaining about this legal reimbursement to the city. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Good comments. And Mr. Simon, do you have a statement, present time?
No.
Okay.
No.
I think
Thank
that's
you.
a valid concern. I just do. I think they deserve an answer, a definite answer, and having this conversation without having the resolution to it seems to be, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what's good. Mr. Heyman.
I just have another quick question for Ty, since he's up here. On the replenishment fee, if the Water District and Searles both take part in the recycled water project on an equal basis, what do you show as the
because I don't know how long or when that.
our numbers would be an estimated 3.3 million.
That's probably close, yeah. I mean, we're taking out, we're going from what,
So would that be-
5,000 down to almost 3,000.
Would that be something reasonable to have put on the budget, or to be reflecting?
I think at this time, this is how I would show it. And then once that process comes into play and we develop it and who's going to take what water and what not, then we can revise this.
So we have estimates, like say with the Water District taking their replenishment fee out of it over the 12-month period, right?
Right.
And that's an estimate, or based on a future assumption. It's not happened.
It hasn't happened because we haven't started paying it, but that is already in place.
But it's in the
There's
big
a
it's in the big
resolution
picture, right? Short-term picture, yeah, short-term big picture. So, but I think this would be in the short-term big picture too, if it's some of the options or possibilities that might play out. I'm just
Right.
bringing that to point.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could always run through that scenario.
It's an interesting question you ask, because it shows the benefit that is being offered to the players in next year for helping to design a plan for the recycled water. And it's a tremendous amount of money being offered if both parties participate. So I think it is something that I think Searles have. I know they have an understanding now about the savings, significant savings they're going to achieve, but also important for the Water District to understand those savings. I know they also understand it also.
They do.
Okay.
I would not plan a next budget for that. I think that's premature.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, but I'd like to keep it ready to go.
To counter that, like just saying that it's premature that these other items aren't there too. These are, hopefuls. I mean, they're assumptions. No one has agreed to that from the Water District. Have we?
Well,
seen
let me clarify.
Hold on, Dave. As a matter of protocol, what we do is before we speak.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I don't want to.
Please, I want to hear what you're saying.
Okay.
So please go.
So I'm not in an argument to stay here with you,
No.
but I'm just saying that if we base it on that, then this is a very fair assumption and should be looked at as possibilities, because that's what we're looking at, trying to get control of it and have options and how these options play out. So, but anyway,
So we're talking about the possibility of the Water District participating in the letter of understanding about the reuse of the wastewater from the treatment plant. Is that right?
Yes.
Just make sure I'm not.
Yes.
The Board of Directors of the Water District at this time are expressing no interest in participating in that letter as it's currently written. So I think it might take some time to discuss and iron out the points of difference between the Water District and the GA and the City of Ridgecrest, and I don't know that that will be something that can be addressed in a matter of weeks or months. So that's why I say I would not put that in the budget yet, because it is
while it's supposed it is a possibility, it's going to require a great deal of work before we get to that point.
Is the Water District Board of Directors aware of the fact that they're going to be paying full replenishment fee come January 1st if they don't participate?
Yes, they are.
Okay, fair enough.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes, sir.
If I might, just to address Director Heyman's comment. Putting this together, you can make any assumptions you want as long as you know what those assumptions are. With your specific question about the Water District credit versus the imported water, the credit is real. It's a real number. The recycled water, we don't know yet what that's going to be. If it's going to be all cereals, all Water District, half. So to your point, it could be put in there, but you need to make one of the assumptions. The credit is a real number, and that's why it's in there.
Good point. Thanks, sir.
I agree on that, on the replenishment fee credit, right? That's what you're referring to?
I'm sorry?
The Water District getting reimbursed for their $500,000 through the replenishment fee reimbursement is what you were just referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
Plus the payment of the Capital Corps invoices since October, in addition to the $500,000, yes.
Mr. Hall.
Chairman, if I may, Chairman Heyman, you're on to something there. If the Water District doesn't want to partake and Cyril's take all of it, the revenue is still the same with the reduction. And that's very much possible. We don't have a commitment. We have a program for recycled water. And what this budget also doesn't include is budgeted estimations for the engineering for that program, which we believe are $500,000 right now. So those are real numbers, and that's a real program. And if Cyril's takes it and the Water District doesn't, you're going to have that revenue difference.
Either way, I mean, there are goods either way. There are benefits to the GA and the community if they don't, and there are benefits if they do. And I'm looking forward to what they decide. Should be interesting. Next call. Oh, we out of callers? Wow, we're out of callers. Okay. So we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for common consideration on item number 7. There are a number of items that were brought up in the public comments.
Would be best to address before passing the budget. I would like to consider the possibility of having staff address those issues, then bring the budget back in January.
Any other thoughts to that? Sounds like a reasonable idea to me. I have no...
We're already late, so what's another month?
There you go. There's a comment. Thank you, Bob.
That's the spirit.
Well, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we have staff address those issues that were brought up during the public comment and return the budget for consideration at the January meeting, please.
Second.
We have a vote and a second. Roll call.
Vice Chair Heyman?
No.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes.
Director St. Amand?
Yes.
Director Page?
Yes.
Director Vallejo?
Aye.
Item number 8, receive comments on the authority's groundwater sustainability plan from the State Water Resource Control Board and consider preliminary responses to the same. Steve Johnson, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Gleason. Yes, we did receive some comments from the State Water Resources Control Board. They were actually sent to DWR because DWR is actually reviewing the GSP. So we did receive some comments. We have summarized the comments in a PowerPoint and provide preliminary responses. The intent would be to provide detailed responses to the state, but we thought it was appropriate to bring these individual comments from the state board and preliminary responses to the board so you can see what type of comments came in and what our initial responses are. Followed by this, there is also a draft letter that I think the board is going to consider. I would like to say right from the get-go, we were, and this is being perfectly transparent. We were very pleased with the comments we received from the State Board. We thought they were very positive in the tone and the presentation, and very supportive of the GSP. We were also very impressed that the State Board and the staff that provided these comments, it certainly looks like they got the message of the GSP, which is the fact that we are in serious overdraft, and serious action actions need to be taken. One of their initial comments related to the inclusion of the shallow well impacts and mitigation plan that is included in the GSP, and they expressed a very strong support for the authority and the GSP for identifying that as an issue and including it as part of the implementation plan. So we'll go through this fairly quick. I know we're on a schedule. I got Jeff here, who was very instrumental in preparing the GSP along with Heather. But Jeff's going to walk through the comments and just provide brief responses. Again, detailed responses will be prepared and brought to the board for approval before we send those back to the State Board. So go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, I think Steve just covered the first. If we could go to the second slide. And we've got a portion of the comments to try and give a flavor of what they were and our responses. I see what's on the screen there. There we go. Okay. The State Board appreciated and supported the inclusion of our shallow well mitigation program. Over their first comment, it was a very strong comment in support of that program. We appreciate that. And we'll be working on developing the program for implementation this year. We could go to the next slide. They note that there is still some loss of groundwater from storage beyond the 2040 time period, and they recommend that we update the storage loss calculations and groundwater storage minimum threshold as more data becomes available. They're correct. There is still some loss of water from storage in 2040 due to evapotranspiration out on the playa. We actually already have come up with a methodology and have updated loss of storage calculation that was put in the annual report that we submitted to DWR earlier this year, and we'll be doing that again shortly after the beginning of the year. We have another annual report to do, and we'll update it again there. Go to the next slide. They note that we have different minimum thresholds for water quality for TS, and they ask that we describe where those areas are in more detail. And we'll point out to them that we have specific monitoring sites, for this issue in the GSP. So we think we've addressed that one. Although I will say we have continued since then to, we've done more sampling. We're refining that network. We may have some changes in what was GSP as far as our monitoring points, but it did include monitoring. If we could go to the next slide. We had noted in the GSP that arsenic was a water quality concern in some parts of the basin. They had suggested that we develop a monitoring program or monitoring points and some management criteria for arsenic. We will be reviewing the data that's available. I'm not sure there's enough available data to set manage the minimum criteria at this point, but we'll continue to explore our monitoring, and when we have enough information, it may end up being in the 5-year update. We'll include that information. Minimum thresholds. Go to the next slide. They note that the Regional Water Quality Control Board had given us some comments on updating the salt nutrient management plan and addressing the potential water quality impacts of using imported water for groundwater recharge in the basin. We've been talking in the meeting about a recycled water project. There will be some work done on recycled water and imported water in this coming year, and an update updating that salt nutrient management plan. We'll start to look at that, move forward with the recycled water project. Let's go to the next slide. They suggest that we give better explanation of the evapotranspiration rates and why it goes down. And basically, our analysis does indicate that it's going to decrease, and frankly, it's because of declining water levels. There's less of it to get to the surface to evapotranspirate. That's a problem that's, from our modeling, is outside of our ability to control, because that happens a long way from the recharge areas and the pumping areas. But we actually are going to be gathering more data as we go in the future. Go to the next slide. Basically, this comment is on climate change. I guess that we have more discussion on climate change. We're preparing a model configuration plan that the Navy has requested that will govern how the model is used and potentially change in the future. And we anticipate we'll have a technical group. The configuration plan will have a technical group to consider issues in the model, and we'll bring this climate question and would anticipate doing some modeling to look at potential climate change in the future. Next slide. Oh, we had assumed in our modeling a water demand increase of 1% annually, and they suggest that we didn't say where that number came from, and we can clarify that for them. I think there's more than one estimate of what growth may be, but we took it specifically from the City of Ridgecrest General Plan update. We'll provide them with that information. Next slide. They apparently have heard some of the publicity that's out there about the municipal water use in Searles Valley and those communities being impacted. The GSP, it doesn't go into any detail, but we'll inform them that the municipal water use out in Searles Valley communities has been addressed allocation of water, and therefore they won't be replacement a replenishment fee on that water. And then the last comment, if we could go to the next slide, they ask about, they don't see a lot of discussion of tribal outreach in the GSP. We've been informed, we've put GSP together, that there was actually some outreach before we at Stetson were involved, so that didn't get included in our GSP in the discussion of outreach. We'll inform the state board of that. They suggest we reach out to the Native American Heritage Commission, who might identify tribes that are interested, and we would intend to do that over time and report back out of that.
Reservation.
Yeah, and there are no, of course, reservations within the basin. So that's my presentation.
Thank you, Jeff.
Quick responses.
Steve, you done, or you want to show the letter that we've drafted to submit in response?
Yeah, if you would, maybe if Gary could pull that up. If it's come up, and I'll just indicate. I'm sure Mick, you, and probably Phil would want to comment on this draft letter. Just for the board information and the public, the thought process of the staff was that with this comment letter coming from the state board to DWR, and the fact we're having a meeting, and that our basin is becoming somewhat high profile in recent weeks. We thought it would be good to provide an initial written response to the state board, to their comment letter, and get that out as soon as possible. Basically, indicating that we appreciate their comments and their support for the GSP, and we're certainly going to work with them going forward to address those comments. So the draft letter should be up. I don't know if Phil, you want to walk through the content of it, or I think the intent was for the board to approve the letter and have the Chairman Gleason sign the letter.
Thanks, Steve. Did you want to talk about it? It addresses two issues, mainly well mitigation and what was the other issue?
The Trona
the
receiving
Trona
domestic
getting
water
water.
supply free of charge.
Do we need a board vote for me to send that letter out, sign that letter out?
If you want to send it as a board letter, yes, you should, but you could also send it personally. I would prefer you to have a motion second and full
Okay.
vote to send it.
So it's not in the package because the letter was drafted yesterday, and it didn't make it to the packet, and all the typing and all the changes we made. So there it is in front of us. I'm sorry you don't have it right in front of you, but if you would kindly, oh, you do have it?
I do.
Oh, nice.
Chairman, it went out last night, and one of the reasons it went out last night is we didn't get the letter from the state 6 days before now, so.
Well, I read it. I'm good to go on it, but I don't know about everybody else. I want to give them time to read the letter.
Just a few minutes.
Yeah, no, take your time. You're a slow reader, Dave. I know.
I am. It's true.
I know, I know.
It's about a page an hour. There's 2 pages here.
You want my glasses? I think there's more to the letter than that just there. I think there's a second page to it. Oh,
Yeah.
did you scroll it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Page. I move the board authorize the chairman to send this letter to the water board on behalf of the authority.
Thank you, sir. Got a motion? Looking for a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Hayman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Aye.
Director St. Amand,
Aye.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Item number 9, board consideration approval of contract extension with Capital Core Group. That is over to Dawn.
The initial contract for the Capital Core Group to provide water procurement and government affairs services to support the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority's goal of completing a groundwater sustainability plan for the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Basin was approved by the GA Board at the March 21, 2019 meeting. At the January 16, 2020 IWVGA Board meeting, the Board was presented with the document from Capital Core entitled Groundwater Sustainability Report, Water Resilience, and Request for Funding Consideration, Naval Air Weapons Station, China Lake, California. The document was a situation report intended for the Assistant Secretary of the Navy as a follow-up to the initial meeting with Capital Core Group. Capital Core Group had been actively seeking potential funding sources for an infrastructure project yet to be determined to provide an augmented water supply to make up the difference between the annual recharge of 7,650 acre-feet reported in the GSP and the 12,000 acre-feet deemed necessary to meet anticipated needs. One potential source of funding identified is through the Department of Defense Communities Infrastructure Program, DCIP. Also presented to the board at the January 16th meeting were a task list, schedule, and budget from Capital Core Group for continued advocacy for future DCIP funding, as well as continuing to build a coalition with 4 other military installations to encourage funding of projects related to critical water infrastructure. The schedule to complete the outlined tasks extended beyond March 21st, 2020, the termination date of the contract with Capital Core Group. As such, Capital Core Group requested the contract be extended to December 31, 2020. At the February 2020 meeting, your board approved Capital Core Group to continue to advocate for DCIP funding for future infrastructure project for an augmented water supply for the Indian Wells Valley by extending the contract to December 31, 2020 with no change to the amount of the contract. Since starting work on behalf of the Groundwater Authority, Capital Core Group has identified water sources, developed working relationships with transfer partners, provided storage opportunities, and positioned the interconnection project for governmental funding totaling $53 million. Though the contract with Capital Core Group expires on December 31, 2020, there continues to be advocacy necessary to follow through on pending legislation for funding opportunities, as well as continued pursuit of imported water sources and potential transfer partners. Capital Core Group has provided a proposed 2020 work plan for board consideration outlining potential remaining subtasks related to Task 1, which is to identify and secure imported water supplies, Task 2, which is transfer and wheeling agreements, and Task 3, secure state and federal funding sources. Capital Core Group has provided preliminary budgetary figures that align with each of these tasks and subtasks in the proposed work plan. Upon determination by the board of which subtask Capital Core Group should focus efforts on in 2021, Capital Core will provide budgetary figures that align with the associated tasks. So actions required by the board. It's advisable that Capital Core Group remain engaged on behalf of the Groundwater Authority in order to not lose out on potential opportunities to secure the necessary financial support. Doing so requires extending the contract with Capital Core Group beyond December 31st, 2020. Additionally, the market for imported water supplies is expected to be extremely tight, with this winter being much drier than normal and forecast for below normal precipitation during the current water year. The urgency to pursue an imported water supply necessitates extending the contract beyond December 31, 2020. It's staff recommendation that the board approve an extension at this time to the end of January. There's a balance of $22,790.50 remaining on the current contract. A 31-day extension to the current contract will allow Capital Core Group to continue to engage on behalf of the Groundwater Authority in the water market, and also allow the new board to weigh in on priorities and the direction the Groundwater Authority wishes to convey to Capital Core Group going forward. A longer contract extension can be considered at the January board meeting.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's open up the public for comment. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on extension for 30 days for capital $22,000? Hold on for a second, Steve. Yeah, go ahead, comment.
Okay, I just wanted to say that there's been significant discussions with Capital Core over the last 2 weeks about where we are and where we're going. And I just want to give the board some assurances that in discussions with Capital Core and with Don, certainly with the general manager, Don, and Phil involved, the intent is for Capital Core to come to the January meeting with a summary of where we are today on imported water and with alternatives and recommendations of where this board needs to go. So I just wanted the board to know that for the new board coming on, it's important that the new board members all hear from Capital Core about our current status and where they think we need to go.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. I see we have a caller.
Kenny.
Caller, you're up. Caller, you're up. Hi, man. Thank you, Renee. Any other callers? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for comment, consideration, and a... I feel Capital Core is doing vital work. Clarification around I'm in favor also. I'll be looking for a motion. I'd like to open a thought that I think it's real important. It's like we're in a train, we're heading in a direction, and we got a big decision to make, like coming right down the pike at us, and this spurs us on to make more decisions because Capital Core is going to come and talk to us and say, there are projects that we have to develop today that have to be funded, paid for, and developed in order to determine import, how we're going to import water, where we're going to import water, and all that. And involved in that, primary to that decision, is where's the water coming from? Is it coming from the north or is it coming from the south? And we've had the beginning conversations internally between me and other friends locally, nothing outside, about that issue and how are we going to get Inyo County to understand and partner with us in answering that question, whether it's from the north or the south. So this is important. I think Capital Corps is doing great work. I'm supportive of what they're doing, but it also, I need everybody to understand that it's urgent that we begin the conversation with Inyo, and we bring them in immediately to any conversations we're having with the Navy or with Congressman McCarthy's office or other players. We have to make a decision. Where are we going to get? We have to predicate our project development on whether or not we're coming from the north or the south. So I want John, and I'm playing golf with Matt Kingsley on this weekend sometime, and this is another conversation we're going to have. As we begin conversations about this, I'm going to vote to approve this, but we're also going to open the door to the Navy, Commander Benson, to help us make decisions on what's in the best interest of the Navy. What does the Navy want to do, and what does Congressman McCarthy want to do? And I want Inyo to be sitting at the table when we're having those conversations. So that's my pledge to you, John, is that I'm going to get you as engaged as I can, and I want you to know, to bring back to your board, that we're at that point. We have to start having conversations, and we are as committed as we can to seeing Inyo County win. We would like very much to see Inyo County win, and but we also are going to. We know we can't do it. We need the Navy, and we need Congressman McCarthy, and we need LADW, and all those other players where the decision is going to be made. Long-winded, sorry, didn't mean to, but I wanted to introduce that idea into this vote today. So is that a motion? Did you make a motion?
I just, one more comment.
Yeah, please do.
I agree completely with Chairman Gleason. Inyo County has to feel that they have a victory in this, if anything. Any plan to pull water from the north is considered, and up to and including the possibility of compensation for being able to draw water from their basin. I've born and raised in the Indian Wells Valley. I understand completely how they feel about, well, let me say that. I don't live in Inyo. Can't say I feel completely. I understand their frustration. I'm familiar with the shenanigans that went on back in the 1920s and 30s, and that it's had a dreadful effect on their county. So I don't believe that, I believe the Water District would only support a plan from the north if, in fact, it did address Inyo's concerns and provided them with some sort of compensation.
Thank you, Dave. John, I'll open the door to you, floor to you to hear your thoughts.
Thanks, Mick. Obviously, Inyo County has taken a pretty clear position on what we believe is not a win for Inyo County, but what we believe is a win for the Indian Wells Valley groundwater basin and the constituencies that use the water from that basin. I don't need to go over all of those issues, but to summarize, we believe not only economically but policy-wise for the future of this basin, the south option is the best option to move forward with. So again, we're not looking for a win here. We're looking for something that makes sense for that basin in the long term, that doesn't also harm Inyo County and its environment and other concerns with regard to further drawing water from our basins up here, or our basin up here. I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the offer to include us in these conversations. Obviously, that has been an issue, and I'm not pointing fingers at any particular person with regard to the Water District going off on its own, engaging Capital Corps, trying to have conversations unilaterally with LADWP. Those are all concerning issues, and it's concerning whether or not we are all moving together or if there are disparate actions being taken by the different agencies on this water board of their own accord. So I think it's crucial that we have conversations amongst ourselves, or including all of us when we're having these conversations with these potential transfer partners. And, we're not looking to make money here. We're looking to protect our environment. We're not looking to exchange cash for more water to be drained from our basin. So I just want to make that clear, and also make clear that our position isn't just Inyo County centric. We believe that our position to date is really in the best interest of the Indian Wells Valley groundwater basin and the users down there. So I look forward to our continuing collaboration and trying to make sure that we all can see the same page, if not get on the same page. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. We have a motion.
I have one more
Yes,
comment.
please, go for it.
We were discussing Inyo County, but also this issue involves Mono County as well, as water is exported through the valley here down to the Los Angeles Basin, and it comes from Mono County as well. So any discussions might actually have to involve representatives from Mono County. Just a thought.
Okay.
That's just as
That
we're
would,
sharing thoughts.
Yeah.
Hey, Mick, if I may, I don't want to
Go, John, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, that's consistent with the fact that Mono County actually sent its own comment letter on our GSP expressing similar concerns that Inyo County did. Yeah. So this is not a simple issue, and it's not just a few players. There's a lot of players to be considered here.
Agreed, and no one on this board is suggesting at the present time we are leaning in any one direction, because I have no clue what the Navy is going to want to do, or what Congressman McCarthy is capable of doing, or we're kind of like along for the ride here until we can make some determinations. But what I want to do is to let Inyo County know that as we go forward, I want them front and center on any conversations so they can voice their opinions, and that was my main concern.
Right. So one last one.
Yeah, please.
I promise. Well, okay.
Mick, I had one too.
Okay, Bob, you'll be next.
One last comment on that one with regard to the water district. We have an obligation to our ratepayers, and any conversations we've been having with any vendors or consultants really is just looking at options, that's all. And that there are no solid plans. We're just looking at our possibilities.
Can I just say something on that? I appreciate that. I understand that. But sometimes that happens, and this is a different topic. It goes to a different direction. But sometimes that happens, and it causes events to occur that may not be in the best interests of this GA, the community, or anybody, not because the water district is acting in its best interest, which I'm supportive of. It's just that we're not kept informed of what conversations are occurring so that it can help us with our conversations that are happening within the confines. So all I think is that as the water district defends its ratepayers, we need to keep this GA board informed so we can understand and build a context for moving forward in all actions that we take. And I encourage everybody to take that same philosophy in self-preservation.
And I would encourage that as well.
Okay, thanks. Bob Page, you had something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Mick. I actually had a question for Don regarding the next step, because this agenda item mentions that, lays out a work plan for 2021, indicates that based on any kind of direction that the Board of Directors today gives to staff regarding that work plan, that they'll develop a cost proposal. And we really haven't addressed that issue in terms of whether we like certain things or don't like certain things in their proposed work plan. And was wondering if the board was to say, yeah, we like everything in their work plan, have they given us a ballpark about how much that would cost? Have they at least expressed that their labor rates, per hour labor rates would not change? Or is there any other kind of cost increase that might be coming our way if we extend it past January 31st on?
So at this point,
I am here, Michael McKinney for Capital Corp.
what was that?
Was someone just speaking? Mike McKinney.
Yes,
Mike McKinney,
Michael
thank you for joining us. Do you have a quick comment to respond to that comment by Bob Page?
Yes, Director Page, no, our rates will not increase from the 2019 rates that were proposed. They will hold steady for the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Our proposed work plan for 2021 is being developed in a detailed scope of work. Generally, it talks about the need for importation of water, the looking for funds and securing of funds, both continuing for the interconnection project, whichever route is chosen, And secondarily now, and more importantly, the recycled water project, as well as we have had discussions with the city on the completion of the wastewater treatment plant. Those will all be in detail in our January submission along with a price.
Outstanding, Michael. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second and a vote. We have the motion.
I motion to approve the contract extension with Capital Corps through January.
Yes, sure, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Vice Chair Hayman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Aye.
Director St. Amand,
Aye.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Number 11, 10. I wish it was number 11. Second reading adoption of ordinance 4, TAC 20, requiring the installation and use of and reporting of metering requirements for groundwater extraction facilities in the Indian Wells Valley. Mr. Hall.
Chairman, this is a second reading. It's the final adoption of the ordinance that was brought forward last month and was discussed then. Really what this is doing is readopting the previous ordinance on well metering, and in doing so also adding a variance procedure for small mutuals, which is in Article 8. Earlier today, we had heard questions from Renee Westerluck about metering, and I would refer Renee to Section 6 of Article 2. That sounds like some of the exemptions she's wanting. I know it says no later than May 1st of 2020 in here, but we're already waiving that for Mojave today, and I'm sure that the board would consider that in the future too. We just didn't change the dates in redoing this ordinance because we were only adding that Article 8. Could have done this by an amendment, but it was easier for tracking purposes to redo everything. So again, this is the second reading and final adoption, so we've already gone through everything last month. I know time is short now, so I'll skip reviewing everything. I will go through what the recommended motion is, which is make a finding that the proposed ordinance is exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15273, Public Resources Code 21080, because it's for establishment of rates and charges. Additionally, it's been determined that this is exempt from further review under 15601B3 because it can be seen with a certainty that this action will not have a significant effect on the environment. And moreover, it's determined the action is exempt from further review under 15378B5 of the guidelines because it involves administrative activities that will not result in a direct or indirect physical change in the environment. We need to introduce the ordinance by reading the title aloud, which is Ordinance 0420, requiring installation of, use of, reporting on metering equipment for groundwater extraction facilities in the Indian Wells Valley Basin, waive further reading of the entire ordinance, and adopt the same.
Thank you, sir. Let's open up to the public. It's Renee Westerluck. Too bad. You said luck. Apologize to her, not me. Okay, I don't see anybody calling it, so we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Thank you. We have a motion, but before we go to the second, we have a phone call, and I'm going to reopen the public hearing for this comment, and I'll let you redo your vote if you need to, Bob. Caller, you're up. Caller, you're up. Caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, this is Renee Westerluck. I just need some clarification from Phil Hall regarding what do I need to direct the Heritage Village. They need to apply for a variance for the meter, their water meter calibration.
Okay, we'll get that. Mr. Hall, would you respond, please?
Sure, and sorry for mispronouncing your name, Renee.
That's
If you
okay.
look at, on Article 2, Section 6, some of what you seem to be saying is related to metering equipment exemptions. You've got a sort of a special circumstances you're mentioning here. A, it's a relatively new meter. B, do you actually need an hour meter? That is the exemption area that you want to look at, not the variance under Section 8, which is slightly different, and that's what I was pointing out. So if you talk to Steve and make those connections, it sounds like the path you'll be headed down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Next caller. I don't see any other callers. Bob, do you want to redo your vote or keep it the same?
I'll make my motion that the board approve staff recommendation regarding this new ordinance 0120 amendment, that we make the findings that this proposed ordinance is exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA, that we introduce the attached ordinance by reading its title aloud, and that we waive reading of the entirety of the ordinance and adopt it.
Thank you, sir. Looking for a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Vice Chair Heeman?
Aye.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes.
Director St. Amand?
Aye.
Director Page?
Aye.
Director Vallejo?
Aye.
Number 11, board consideration and possible approval of variance request per ordinance 0420 by Mojave Pistachios, Pinion Water Co-op, Owens Peak West Water Co-op, Desert Sands Water Co-op, and Simmons Farm. Done.
Sure, there's a three-page staff report in your packet, and I'm sure Chair would appreciate it if I read this verbatim, but I'll try and condense it. At the November 19th meeting, the board heard staff recommendations for change to the meter compliance policy and an amendment to Ordinance 0120 with the first reading of Ordinance 0420. Specifically, Article 8 was added to Ordinance 0120. Article 8 is a variance request for qualifying small mutual well owners and operators. The specific language is in the board packet and the staff report. I won't read it. Staff has received five requests for variance under Article 8. I'll go through each one of those and briefly describe them. The first one was from Mojave Pistachios. They are requesting a variance from the list of approved water meters. Also, a request for a variance from the requirement to install an hour meter. The third request is for additional contractors as authorized meter testers and installers. And the fourth is a request for the deadline extension. The rationale behind each one of those requests is in the staff report. I will only, I'll go through the staff recommendation at the end, but I think the one that probably bears a little bit more explanation is the fourth one, which is the deadline extension. And this is verified by their pumping, the reported pumping report, the monthly reporting forms for their pumping. Mojave does shut down their wells during the winter, and they drain their irrigation system. They also shut down the electric service to the wells. So to do the meter testing required by Ordinance 0120, Mojave would need to recommence operation of its wells to run water through the system to check the meter accuracy. This water, however, would be wasted because it cannot be applied to the trees, given that the trees need to go dormant before it freezes, and the application of water can interfere with that process. Mojave is requesting extension of the November 23, 2020 compliance deadline set forth by my letter dated September 22nd, 2020, to the earlier of 2 weeks after the wells begin operating again, or March 31st, 2021. So that's Mojave Pistachios. Simmons Farms request a variance for installing the new meters on their wells. They are no longer farming. Mr. Simmons unfortunately passed away earlier this year, and the intent is to list the property for sale. So installing new meters and complying would pose a financial hardship that is not necessary without farming taking place. Pinion Water Co-op, they're making a similar claim. They are non-de minimis. There are 8 connections, each individually metered. Their usage during through November was 5.3 acre feet. They're requesting a variance to Article 8 based on financial hardship. They cite in the staff report increasing costs to operate their well and operate their system. Again, the details in your staff report. Their letter also states that the co-op property owners are either low income, on fixed income, elderly, or have some existing health conditions. The third one, Owens Peak Westwater Company, they're requesting similar variance to Articles 2 and 3. They cite that they supply solely for residential use. They've recently upgraded their storage tanks and their pressure pump, and the cost of those items has put a strain on their finances, as has the recent increase in the groundwater extraction fee. So again, they're claiming financial hardship. Desert Sandwater Co-op, similar request for variance from Articles 2 and 3. Their membership in the co-op has declined from 16 members to 3. Their reported pumping through October of this year was 2.69 acre feet. There was no other additional information other than there's just only a couple of members of the co-op, and they don't pump much water. So I think that covers all 5. As far as staff recommendation of the board, staff recommends the board approve the requested variances for Simmons Farm, Pinion Water Company, Owens Peak West Water Company, and Desert Sandwater Co-op as presented. Staff also recommends approval of request 2, which is the requirement for an hour meter, and request 4, which is the extension of the deadline for Mojave Pistachios, and a conditional approval of requests 1 and 3 pending further evaluation by the Water Resources Manager of the meter type and the suggested alternative meter testers and installers.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Open up to the public for comment. Caller, you're up.
Suggested alternative meter test.
Yes, thank you. This is Joshua Nugent on behalf of Mojave Pistachios.
Hi, Josh.
And hi, Mick. The staff report, hi, Supervisor Gleason. The staff report for item 11 recommends approval of 2 components of Mojave Pistachios variance request and conditional approval of the other 2 components related to meter type and the use of 2 meter testing contractors not yet on the list of approved contractors. We appreciate the board's consideration of Mojave Pistachios variance request, and we'd be happy to provide additional information regarding our meters, which meet industry standards for agricultural use and are similar to ag meters already approved in other variance requests. We are able to provide additional information also regarding the 2 contractors proposed for addition in the list of approved contractors for meter testing, all of which have the necessary experience and credentials for meter testing and already work throughout the region. And then I would just like to Don gave a good explanation, but the reason that we can't do the pump testing right now is we've winterized the trees and our irrigation system. And so you have to kind of shut down pistachio trees before they go into the winter, or else they'll grow into a freeze and it can kill the trees. But I think in our proposal, it was that within 2 weeks of commencing pumping operations in the spring, we would get those meters testing done. And then that way the water that's used could actually be applied to trees so it wouldn't be wasted. So if you have any other questions now, I can take them, and if not, we can provide any additional information to Steve Johnson and Stetson in writing later on. So appreciate your time.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. Next caller. No other callers? So let's bring it back to the board for a vote on this issue, number 11.
You need to move.
What?
Do you need someone to move?
Move, yes.
I move that we accept the variance request based on staff recommendation.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Roll call vote.
Can I ask a question, Chair, before we vote?
Yes, please.
Sorry, this is Bob Page, San Diego County. The general manager explained, it sounded like he was saying that all of these variance requests before us today are permissible under the new Section 8 or Article 8 of the ordinance we just adopted in the prior item, which does not become effective until January 17th. But I know that the ordinance that was in place before the one we adopted had certain provisions for alternative methods and things like that. So I just wanted to get clarity that we're not actually approving anything today with this action in motion that is based on an ordinance that doesn't come into effect until January 17th, or are we approving these variances under the existing allowances in the ordinance as it exists and is effective today?
Bob, you're good, man. You are very good.
Director Page, So I would classify Mojave Pistachio's request as a Section 6 variance, not really an Article 8 variance. So that's Article 2, Section 6, about the way their meters are. That is currently in effect and is in effect until, 30 days from today for this ordinance to become fully effective. We are jumping the gun a little bit for these mutuals. It's not really an effective ordinance, but there's nothing wrong with signaling now that when the ordinance becomes effective, their variances are also effective.
So let me see if I understand Bob's question. The result of Bob's question is we're approving these variances now, and it's good. The variances are good no matter where they're coming from, existing ordinance or the one that's coming up in January.
To put it another way, we are 30 days ahead of actually approving a variance based on an ordinance, but there's nothing wrong with that because you already know what you're going to be doing in 30 days from now.
That's
so
good.
You're just giving them advance notice.
So Mojave Pistachio is getting everything they need, Binion, all those folks.
They're all getting what they need. We're just doing it a little bit before the ordinance is fully effective, but that's
nice.
So Mojave Pistachios would go into effect
Mojave
based on the previous, so we're...
Yeah,
so
Mojave
basically
Pistachios is
immediately.
going into effect based on either ordinance
Okay.
because it's in Section 6,
Okay.
Article 2, which is also what I was pointing up to earlier for Renee.
Okay, thank you.
Did we have a motion already?
Yes.
We have a motion. We have a
Yes.
second?
Yeah.
We need a roll call vote.
Vice Chair Hayman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason.
Yes.
Director Sanamond,
Yes.
Director Page,
No.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Item number 12, public hearing and board consideration to adopt ordinance 520, amending ordinance 218, establishing groundwater extraction fees and the rules, regulations, procedures for their imposition. Jim Worth, I believe this is yours.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Gleason. This is about, as you said, the discussion and potential adoption of ordinance number 520. In essence, it's almost re-adopt. The effect would be re-adopting the fee increase that was approved by the board back in July of this year. Since it was discussed in July and November, I'll try to be brief for the opening comments. But the board will recall that back in 2018, the board adopted ordinance number 2-18, which established the initial groundwater extraction fee, as well as the rules, regulations, procedures for their imposition. It was adopted on July 19, 2018, and became effective on September 1st, 2018. And the whole purpose behind the fee was to fund the costs for the development of the GSP. Back in 2018, the fee was intended to generate approximately $1.5 million over about a 2-year period. However, that did not occur as a result of less than half anticipating pumping fees. Only generated around $750,000 as opposed to the 1.5 that was needed. So we're $750,000 short in that regard. This, along with additional tasks that were identified while we were preparing and developing the GSP, were also added, and it created a cash flow problem that needed to be addressed, and the board instructed staff to do just that. Consequently, on July 16, 2020, the board considered and actually adopted ordinance number 2-20. The impact of the ordinance 220 was to increase the groundwater extraction fee from $30 to what it is presently at $105 per acre foot. Ordinance number 2-20 became effective September 1st, 2020. Since the adoption of Ordinance 2-20, it's been talked about a little bit. Been a couple of lawsuits that have been filed against the Groundwater Authority, challenging some of not only the development of the adoption of the GSP, but some of the actions behind it, including the groundwater extraction fee that we're talking about here. There were a couple of primary arguments that they made. One was that the data package wasn't made available to the public within the 20 days as it's required pursuant to code. And they also mentioned some substantive issues that they had, primarily that some of these additional tasks that we'll talk about in a bit go beyond the scope of 10730 and should not be funded through this groundwater extraction fee. So we made the board aware of this at the last month's board meeting on November 19th, and the board instructed staff to go ahead and set a public meeting, which is required to either impose or increase the fee under 10730 for today, and to release the data package upon which the fee will be based within that 20-day time period. Both of those have been done. The data package was released to the public on November 24th, and we have also done our posting or publishing pursuant to Government Code 6066 as required. Notice of this meeting was published twice on December 2nd and again on December 9th, letting the public know about the meeting as well as where they could get the data package. So, in essence, what we're doing here by adopting ordinance number 05-20 today, in essence, what the board will be doing is readopting the fee increase that the board did on July of this year. If the board would like, they can go to on page 5 of the staff report. Is the budget items that support the need for the fee, and you've got the budget items. If you're there, the original estimate column, second from the right. In essence, what that is those are the original estimates that we used to come up with the $30 groundwater extraction fee. And you'll note at the bottom of that column, it comes out to us needing $1.522 million. And for the reasons that I've already stated, we came up short with that. When the board directed staff to go ahead and prepare a revised fee, what we did is we had much more knowledge and had done a lot of work since when we first adopted it in July of 2018. So we revised the estimates, and you'll see under the revised estimate column that the IWVGA support costs from Stetson, which were originally $435, were increased to about $991,000. And these support costs can be classified as the Stetson costs that were not covered under the Prop 1 administrative grant, and so they've got a separate column here. The administrative costs were reduced from $161,000 to approximately $25,000. And where there's been some debate under additional tasks, in addition to the support costs that were identified back in July of 2018, Stetson also identified some additional tasks, some of which were completed, most of which began before GSP adoption. But these are also additional tasks that were needed to develop the GSP. And so those additional tasks that were not known or identified back in July 2018 but became aware subsequently come up to a total of about $934,000. So what you come to is when you get to the revised estimate and the new numbers with the additional tasks, as it turns out, where we stand today, the fee still needs to generate an additional approximately $1.5 million to cover all of the GSP development costs that are identified in the table. And what was done back in July of 2018 and what staff is recommending be done now is that the board go ahead and adopt Ordinance 520, which will once again set the groundwater extraction fee at $105 an acre feet, and we anticipate that would pay the development costs for the GSP off in approximately 18 months. The action that staff is looking for, consistent with It's a recommendation to adopt ordinance 520. It's a three-part motion, and part one is make a finding that the proposed ordinance is exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Section 15273, Public Resources Code 21080B, as in Bravo 8, as its establishment of operational rates and charges. Also, that this action's exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines. CEQA guidelines 15061B3, as it will be seen with certainty, this action will not have a significant effect on the environment, and that this action is exempt from further environmental review pursuant to guidelines section 15378 Bravo 5, as it involves administrative activities that will not result in direct or indirect physical changes in the environment. Second part is that the board adopt ordinance number 05-20, amending ordinance number 02-18, establishing groundwater extraction fees and the rules, regulations, and procedures for their imposition. And the final is to authorize staff to do all things necessary to implement ordinance number 05-20 and the revised groundwater extraction fee, which includes publishing the entire ordinance in the paper as we have done in the past. That completes my my presentation, and would be happy to address any questions that the board or the public might have.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's open it up for the public. Any comments from the public? I hear someone calling. Caller, you're up.
Yeah, this is Renee West-Lusk again. Now, when is this fee? This fee is already being collected starting September 1st. So, are we still going by that timeline of 15 months? Because I get questions about the sunsetting of this fee, whether it's once we collect the 1.5 million, or is it going to be, 1.5 years of collecting this fee? And do you start from the September date, or do we start from today's date?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to let Jim answer that one.
Yes, the effective date would be September 1st of 2020. We have not done anything different to that. We're just readopting it. So the 18 months is probably quicker than about 15 months, as we haven't changed any of the numbers. There's no additional costs that have come in. So it's 3 months off of all things are considered.
Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Esposito, attorney for Mojave. Good afternoon. So as you know, we have previously objected to the adoption of the extraction fee through ordinance 220 in July on the basis that that ordinance and the adoption process failed to comply with CIGMA and the California Constitution. And we've carefully reviewed Ordinance 520 and the associated data package, and believe that the substantive and procedural deficiencies that we previously identified remain. And we've outlined these issues in detail in our comment letter, which we submitted to the board yesterday, but I'd like to take a moment to highlight a couple of examples. The first is that it's not clear that the 20-day notice deadline in Water Code Section 10730 was met. As noted earlier, the staff report states the data package for the fee was made available to the public on November 24th, but we were unable to locate the data package on the authority's website on either November 24th or on the 25th, which was the day before Thanksgiving. And we also didn't receive the data package by email. So we'd like to ask the agency to clarify when the data package was actually released to the public and ask why it was not circulated to interested parties by email. Additionally, we note that the extraction fee is still proposed to fund the items that we believe that we previously raised can only be funded after compliance with the constitutional requirements made applicable through Water Code Section 10730.2, because several of the line items are groundwater management and GSP implementation costs. So we ask the board to address the issues that we've raised in our comment letter and revise the data package accordingly before adopting a revised extraction fee that's fully compliant with the applicable legal requirements. And until that occurs, we believe that the prior $30 per acre foot extraction fee should remain in effect and that any excess payments should be refunded. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm going to pass that back to Jim Worth for a response.
Thank you.
With respect to the first question regarding the data package and the posting of that, we actually received an email from Derek Hoffman a couple days ago. April and I did, and April sent Derek an email showing the proof of posting of the data package on the website, as well as proof of publication in the papers on the December 2nd and 9th, both of which reference the data package being made available on the 24th. So I stand by the statement that it was made the 24th, and I'd be certainly happy to forward Elizabeth the email that we sent to Derek. The second issue is one that we've heard since we started talking about the revised extraction fee back in the summer, and that is, in essence, 10730, Water Code Section 10730, that this fee is based upon, says that the proceeds of the fee can be used for development, not just GSP development, but preparation, adoption, amendment of a groundwater sustainability plan, and investigations, inspections, compliance assistance, enforcement, and program administration. Those are all appropriate tasks and costs that can be funded by 10730. It is our position that the items contained within the budget for this revised extraction fee fall within the purview of Section 10730 as it's done. Ms. Esposito is arguing, and Mojave Pistachio is arguing, that some of the costs that are included within the budget are more appropriately management actions, if you will, and should be funded through a fee that would be adopted pursuant to Water Code 10730.2, which is the process that we followed through for the replenishment fee. And it requires more notice than what's provided here, and it requires compliance with portions of Prop 218. Without going into a line-by-line item, we stand by the fact that we believe that the budget items within this fee being proposed today are all fall within the purview of 10730.
Thank you, Jim.
That's all.
Thank you, Jim. Next call. Caller, you're up.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is Derek Hoffman from Meadowbrook Dairy. And as Jim Worth mentioned earlier, this ordinance is essentially a readoption of Ordinance 02-20 from July. And Meadowbrook, as you may recall, submitted detailed comments on the prior ordinance 02-20 in July, raising many substantive issues about the fee, similar to those raised by Mojave Pistachio. And so in the event that, to the extent that the issues have not been corrected, Meadowbrook maintains its position, maintains its objections, and preserves its claims. And we've submitted a brief letter today just noting that. And to the extent that this fee is made applicable to Meadowbrook at some point, we, again, just maintain our view on that. And there does appear to be a difference of opinion, as Mr. Worth has noted a moment ago, about whether these items are appropriately allocated, and Meadowbrook simply preserves its claims on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Next call. I don't see any other callers, so we'll close the public hearing on this issue and bring it back to the board. Item number 12.
This is Bob Page. I will move staff recommendation that we adopt this ordinance regarding the extraction fee and make the findings that this action is exempt from further environmental review under CEQA, that the staff also be authorized to do all things necessary to implement ordinance number 0520 and the revised groundwater extraction fee.
Thank you.
To
We have a
adopt
motion.
ordinance 020, Director Page.
Yes. Yes. I said that at the beginning. I kind of took it out of order. I started by saying staff's recommendation to adopt. But yes,
I'm sorry,
to
you
adopt
threw me a
ordinance
little bit.
0520. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Page. We've got a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Roll call vote.
Vice Chair Heeman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Aye.
Director St. Amand,
Aye.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Number 13, board consideration and approval of technical support services. Steve, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff just turned on my mic. I'll try to make this quick, since I know we're running kind of tight on time. This item will be carried over to the January board meeting. It was going to be moved to the Water Resource Manager report, but it was left on as it is. But we will be bringing it back to January because we still have not received the draft agreement from DWR. Just a quick update. This TSS grant is for technical support services. It came up through the TAC many months ago. The recommendation from the TAC put together a project for TSS support. We developed a project through the TAC. The TAC recommended it to the board, and we applied. And basically, the project was approved. We're just waiting for the agreement. The last word we have, and I think there should be a PowerPoint. I don't see it up yet, but we're delayed. If there's going to be there's a PowerPoint on this. This work is for some investigative data collection work in the El Paso sub-area. It's nested piezometers to collect data in the El Paso sub-area, which we had a question, I think, from Renee earlier, Westalesk, regarding El Paso. So this is to collect data over there. They did approve the grant. DWR did approve the grant. And as I mentioned, we are waiting on the grant agreement. We just received word this week that we're expecting the grant agreement from DWR next week. So we should be ready to go in at the January meeting. What they were waiting for were drillers' costs from our well driller, and I guess with COVID and what was going on, the driller was a little delayed in getting the cost numbers into DWR so they could get them into the agreement. Anyway, if we get it approved in January, which we should at the board level, work should start in late January. It's about 3 months worth of work, and we will bring back the results to the board. With that, I would just say this is a receive and file as far as we're concerned, and we will leave the agenda item as a board consideration and approval for the January meeting. Thank you.
Do we need a vote on receive and file, Mr. Hall?
No.
Okay, so we need public hearing on this?
You should take public comment because
Okay.
we're past public comment, but there's nothing to vote on.
Okay, so let's hear public comment on this issue, and we don't need to have a vote. Okay, seeing no public comment, we don't need a vote. Any board member comments, consideration, or thoughts? Mr. Vallejo, Mr. Page, anything?
Nothing from me.
No, I'm good.
Okay, item number 14, Water Resource Manager Report. Steve, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Make sure I'm on an M. There's two items, A and B, which is Prop 1 and Prop 68. There should be PowerPoints for both of these going up. Ours is a little delayed, so I'm going to go ahead either way. We are running a little behind with DWR. I'm guessing it has to do with COVID, but for Proposition 1, DWR currently has invoice number 6 in the amount of $40,218 and invoice number 7 in the amount of $95,904 that have both been approved by DWR. They signed off on both of those invoices in late November. We just have not received payment yet. So all questions have been answered on those two invoices, and we're just waiting for the money. Invoice number 8, which covers the period of July through August 2020. The total amount after retention is $136,282. In accordance with our schedule on submitting invoices to DWR, it was submitted on time on November 19th of last month. We have not received any comments back from DWR on that invoice. We usually get a few minor comments, but that invoice is also at DWR. The next invoice on Proposition 1 will be due on February 28th, and we will submit another invoice. So we are sitting on, from Prop 1, we are sitting on about $250,000 from DWR in actual payments. That's after retention. I'll move on to Prop 68. A similar report. As you all know, we were awarded, the authority was awarded $330,000, most of it past cost, getting reimbursed for a past authority cost. It was reduced to $300,000 based upon available funds, so that's where it's sitting right now. The grant agreement was executed on the 4th of May of 2020. We did submit the first invoice, which was invoice 7B, because they made it a part of Proposition 1 also, that agreement. For $246,353. We did exchange some comments with DWR. According to our records, DWR has signed off on that invoice. Again, November 19th, they signed off on it. So again, we're just waiting for the money from DWR. So it's another $250,000 between all these invoices. We're looking at about $500,000. Invoice number 8B, which is the next invoice. Not much left. It's only at $3,000. It was submitted at the end of November. We have not received any comments on that invoice. Just backing up, total amount of $300,000. After retentions, these two invoices cover most of the money coming back to the authority as reimbursement money. So, again, next invoice for Prop 68 is February 28th. Of 2021, which we will be ready probably to submit our final invoices and then work on our retentions. Those are the two agenda items. If I may, I was going to go ahead and go through two other PowerPoints that are not on the agenda, just for the board's information and for the interested parties.
Go ahead.
And I'm not sure which one might come up. Let's see if we can. Oh, we're late on that. Maybe. Mick or somebody there can tell me, is the new Prop 68 grant funding PowerPoint up, or is the recycled water PowerPoint up?
Recycled water.
Okay, we'll go to the recycled water. This is just an update. There's been a lot of discussion regarding the recycled water project that the city is currently working on. As we all know, the city and the authority executed an option agreement. The board approved that option agreement at the November meeting. We've kind of informally putting together sort of a recycled water project team. This certainly includes the city folks, Ron and Keith, and their consultant, Michael Nunley, very good consultant working on their project. For the authority, Water Resources Manager, we've been involved. Phil and Alan have been involved. It's basically those folks. It's not a formal project team yet, but we're working together to try to move the project forward. Some of the initial tasks we've talked about, and I hope we're hoping this will be helpful to the board and to the interested parties. First task is to document the current wastewater treatment facility and the recycled water program. That's just to provide the information. A lot of that is in the GSP, but the idea is to get everybody on the same page as to what the recycled water program in Indian Wells looks like right now in the city of Ridgecrest, what it looks like. Second task would be to document the city's expansion of that program and where the current recycled water program is going, that the city is working on, how much water is going to be available, what the intended uses are for that water, regardless of the option agreement with the authority. And then the third task I show there is to outline the city authority recycled water project alternative study. It says alternations. It should be alternative study. Sorry about that, but it's the alternative study. That's what we're looking at for different options and to use the water from the wastewater treatment plant expansion. It'll include potential or negotiations or work with Cyrils, the water district, groundwater replenishment, injection, direct surface spreading. So this third task will be what we're going to be looking at in 2021 for the project going forward. So the idea is to get everybody on the same page, not just our project team, but the board, the city, and all the interested parties to know where this is going. There were commitment letters sent to the Water District and Cyrils that are due by the end of the year regarding participation in that project, so we'll be waiting on those. The goal we have is to restart the city and the authority project team coordination in early January. So we'll have direction participation between Cyrils and the Water District on the recycled water project, and depending on what responses we get, our team will come together and we'll start moving forward and hopefully making some real progress and keeping all of the interested parties up to date on where that project is headed. The Indian Wells new Prop 68 grant funding also includes coordination on that wastewater treatment plant expansion. So I just want to include that because it's a part of the next slide, but that recycled water project and where we're going with recycled water is included in the new Prop 68 funding application that we are putting together right now. That's the end of that particular PowerPoint. If we can, I'd like to go to the next one, which is new Prop 68 grant funding opportunity. And I'll wait just a second for it to go up. As a recap, the authority approved making application for that Prop 68 money at the November meeting, so we're working on that application. There are two rounds. I'm just going to talk about round one right now. That's for GSP implementation funding. So that's what we're going to be applying for, is funding to implement the GSP. The types of projects include groundwater recharge projects with imported water, surface water, stormwater, recycled water, everything we're interested in. Those are the type of projects. It also includes groundwater contamination cleanup, which really doesn't apply to us, but it's part of the round one funding. It also includes conjunctive use projects, again, something we're interested in. I show that on the PowerPoint. Minimum amount for this funding session of round one is $2 million minimum, maximum $5 million. We intend to apply for the full amount, the $5 million. The application is due to DWR January 8th. We intend to make that deadline. Right now, and we presented this at the November meeting, right now, the components of the application include the imported water supply alternatives analysis, which was discussed already at the board. Where are we going to get our imported water? The recycled water use alternative analysis, which I just mentioned a moment ago with the recycled water project team. And then the third item is the recycled water project phase one treatment design project. So that's the city project. We've mentioned before that coordinating with the city on funding work that the city is already working on. The intent would be certainly under that option agreement to work with the city and properly account for grant funding that comes in and make sure that whatever grant funding is brought to the table for this project is reflected in the cost of the water to the residents of Indian Wells Valley, to make sure that it gets reflected in how we actually implement the recycled water project and who benefits from that water supply. So that's the project, the application. Again, I mentioned we're applying for the full $5 million. Probably we'll apply for a little more than the $5 million, making sure that we get the full amount. Our intention is to complete that draft application and get it to the Indian Wells, to both teams, to the team staff, by right after the New Year, by January 4th. Give us plenty of time to do internal review, make any changes, and get it to DWR by January 8th. And thank you, Chairman Gleason, and that's my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's open to the public. Any comments on Water Resources Manager report? I don't see any, so we'll bring it back to the board for comment and consideration. This is a receiving file. We've done this for 10 years. Is it a receiving file? I keep asking every month. I ask. Receiving files, we need a vote. Any comments from board members? No. Mr. Page or Mr. Vallejo, any comments?
None from me. No comments from me.
Number 15, General Manager report.
Okay, first just an update to Steve's report. We did receive payment for the invoice number 6 from DWR for the $40,218.79, so we did get that money back. Finances, the financial reports in your packet. The balance of $202,747 does not include payments we've received from the groundwater extraction fee that total $81,801.44 for the month of November. Those have yet to be transferred and deposited in the GA account. Also, as Steve kind of pointed out earlier, we do have a total of $342,257.39 awaiting reimbursement from DWR. That doesn't include the invoice number 6, which we received already. That's it for the financial report. The IWVGA's water marketer, Capital Core Group. There's a large report from Capital Core Group, an update on their work in November. I'll summarize it briefly. Their efforts related to the Defense Communities Infrastructure Program, DCIP, were successful in 3 of the 4 areas of the National Defense Authorization Act. While the amendments were reworded to reconcile overall differences and concerns, they achieved the objectives of the amendments and increased discussion among policymakers concerning the water issues currently facing all Western military installations. Capital Corps' objective has been to strengthen the eligibility of both an interconnection project and the wastewater treatment and reuse project. That objective was accomplished in the final bill. Amendment of the military value and resiliency priorities assists the eligibility of both projects. The wastewater treatment and reuse project will meet full eligibility requirements during the fiscal year 2022 or FY 2023. Funding levels for an interconnection project are going to require additional advocacy. The Conference Committee has discharged legislation to reauthorize the Water Resources Development Act. Portions of that will expire December 31st, and without reauthorization, the Army Corps of Engineers Division will be unfunded through the FY 2021 cycle. Congress did act to keep the program alive ahead of the expiration date. Capital Corps is continuing to monitor the infrastructure and water program authorization bills as they move through Congress. Other potential federal funding opportunities for water infrastructure projects are the America's Water Infrastructure Act and the Drinking Water Infrastructure Act, and they continue to be monitored. Both remain in committee and will almost certainly not be considered during 2020. They should be part of the larger infrastructure package to be considered by the 117th Congress. The Disadvantaged Communities Program update briefly. The Water Conservation Rebate Program being conducted by WaterWise Consulting has continued to see a lack of applications, even though they've expanded their outreach efforts. They did receive some initial positive responses from direct contacts to local churches, but it yielded no applications. So they're evaluating further marketing and outreach options in order to try and increase program participation. California Rural Water Association has yet to issue their final report for the Inyokern audit. The Searles Valley audit was initiated with a kickoff meeting on November 18th. According to the most recent update, they've begun mapping boundaries around the 4 systems within Searles Valley. Additional severely disadvantaged communities have also been identified. These are small systems. The thought is to try and include those in this program. A draft work plan was provided by the Rural Water Association. Stetson did provide some comments. Those are being incorporated into a revision. There was some concern expressed whether the cost of additional audits and inspections will consume much of this funding and not provide enough to make the necessary repairs. Rural Water Association responded to that. They believe, given the time remaining on the agreement, that repairs may only be addressed with the first system surveyed, which would be Inyokern CSD. Their express preference is to proceed with providing the audit service to as many systems as possible to give them resources that typically aren't at their disposal. Their experience with conducting leak detection and water loss survey work is that it's provided tangible long-term benefits. Item D, delinquent accounts. You've been provided with the update on that. I would point out that we have recovered $53,479.11. There are some follow-up actions that are highlighted in yellow that we will be pursuing. Item number E, well registration update. We've had one well registration since last month's update, so there's a total of 113 new well registrations, all but 6 claiming de minimis status. Total number of wells registered now are 132 de minimis, 114 non-de minimis among 55 non-de minimis pumpers. I will point out that staff did draft an email that was provided to the domestic well owners representative on a TAC to distribute to the domestic well owners, encouraging them to register their wells. That just went out within the last couple weeks, so we'll see what kind of response we get to that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any public comment on the general manager's report? Seeing none, we will receive and file that and move on to closing comments. Let's start with BLM. Tom, are you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Tom, you got any closing comments?
I don't have anything to add.
Thank you, Tom. Commander?
Thanks, Mr. Gleason. No additional comments from the Navy. Over.
Thank you, sir. From my left, Dave.
None from you, sir.
Scott?
None.
Okay, I got a real couple quick ones. Commander, I'm going to pass on to the subsequent chairman of this board that of urgency is getting a firsthand conversation going with the Navy to understand the next stages and what their position is and what their understanding is for how we move forward. So I fully expect the chairman to be knocking on your doors to help us set some stuff, to open some doors for us so we can move on that. We're also going to be moving on to Congressman McCarthy, finding out where he sits on deals, because we're getting to a point where we have to begin making decisions on projects and how we're going to spend water. We have to start urgently looking for water and buying that. So we're going to be, we got a big year next year, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you all.
And we do have no other comment, so when you're done, I have something to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm done.
Okay. We'll make this quick, because we know you got to go.
Right.
All right. So I have a presentation that I've been given the honor to give to you, Nick Gleason. So I would like to do that.
Is it more nuts?
It is not more nuts. But normally I would probably stand down here at the microphone. I'm going to sit.
Okay, good.
So, all right. So I've had the honor and privilege of working with Mick Gleason for the past 2 years, both with the city and through the GA. The best 2 words that I could use to describe Mr. Gleason is service and passion.
That's better than big nose.
We'll concur that those may be features that one has, but I have a big head, so we will all just carry it. But he has served his country as a naval aviator, moving his way up the ladder as a commander at China Lake Naval Air Weapons Station. He served his county as a state or as a county supervisor. He served this community as director of the chair on the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority and a director. I know there are other countless public service organizations that Mick has been part of. I hear you speak of them all the time. I know you're an active person in your community and your county, and and like I said, he's done all of these endeavors with great passion, and everything that I see you do, it's passionate. You have integrity, you have the want to do what you're doing and to do it well, and it shows. I and the board, myself, the board, the community, and the staff, we will sorely miss Mick Gleason, but I can probably speak for the rest of the staff that we'll be happy to see him reach a point in his life that he can enjoy his time and his family. We appreciate everything that you have done, and yeah, we will miss you in the community. But wish you good luck, sir.
Thanks.
And we have a plaque here that is on behalf of all of us, the Water District, and the GA Board. Is that correct? I don't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Outstanding. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. My pleasure. We're adjourned. Oh, no, we're not adjourned.
We are not adjourned. We're coming back tomorrow at noon.
Oh, yeah.
The two closed session items, and we will not be meeting on Capitol Court.
Oh, we were not going to talk about Capitol Court today,
There's not enough time, so it can be put off.
so we put that off to tomorrow. We're meeting at noon tomorrow.
Capitol Court will not occur tomorrow either. We will put it off till the next meeting.
Okay.
We will meet on the two litigation items with Mojave and Cyril's tomorrow.
Okay, so we're okay with setting this place up for tomorrow at noon, Ron?
No?
Okay, outstanding. See everybody tomorrow at noon. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, right. I hope you do. Okay.